We are proceeding further ahead with what we had been discussing yesterday. Let us substantiate our segments accordingly. So, in yesterday's session, we were discussing about what is aptitude and what is aptitude, like related to how it is connected to the component of skill, how it is again different from skill and ability. Skill was derived from your past effort, ability was your present learning that was unfolding, and aptitude was the future potential. And when we connected with civil services aptitude, we substantiated the segments pertaining to what dimensions can be unfolded. So in the process, I explained you these dimensions, and then I explained you why aptitude is needed. So the relevance of aptitude, and I discussed that aptitude is needed because we can get a head start, we can get to know who possesses what kind of, we can say, talent, what kind of possibility, right? And it is easy to achieve the target, it keeps the motivation intact, all of it we were discussing. So with respect to when we are discussing about aptitude and intelligence, we need to understand that aptitude is quite innate in nature, while intelligence, when we are talking about it, it is associated with an individual thinking rationally and acting purposefully. Individual thinking rationally and acting purposefully. We can also see that aptitude is mostly inherent, but it can also be learned. So inherent as well as can be learned, but mostly with respect to aptitude, we consider it to be inherent. And in the component of intellect, we can consider that it is inherent. It is inherent. They should have opened it in the open session. In dismissed, I can hardly see the chat. So I'll miss majority of the stuffs that students will write. Um, just a second. What is SMA? Please call the tech team if you can hear me. Please call the tech team. Just request them that I'm like requesting them to come inside the room. So, here we can also consider this to be like inherent and learned. So, when we are speaking of it learned, it is associated with the environment. So, the environment can increase, we can consider increase the IQ of a person. All right, again, we can see that intelligence is only mental, whereas with respect to aptitude, we can see it is both mental and physical. Mental and physical. We can again see that aptitude is like in general, it is present in general. And like when we are talking about intelligence is, it's quite generalized, whereas aptitude is in specific area, like you can sing better or you can dance better. It's like specific. So it is in specific area, right? When we are discussing about it again, for this with the same kind of insight and understanding, you need to grab the difference between aptitude and attitude. So when we say aptitude and when we say attitude, so I want open section, not dismissed. So in this given subsegment, we all can see that aptitude is inherent and attitude is learned. Similarly, attitude is only mental, whereas aptitude can be both mental and physical. Both mental and physical. Vishal, yesterday I gave you the example of Mutaiya Murlidharan. I gave you the example of, if you remember, there was this example of Michael Phelps. So, I mean, being alert and capability to revise will give a boost to connect these dots. All right. So, both mental and physical. Again, with respect to aptitude, we can see that what we can do is decided. Okay, so what we can do, it is decided. Our potential is decided with respect to aptitude, whereas attitude, it decides how we are going to approach it. So how we are going to approach it, approach it, right? So it decides how we are going to approach it. All right, so that's something when you are talking about aptitude versus attitude, right? So aptitude, like for example, Vinod Kambli had aptitude for cricket, but his attitude was not that of a good learner, of a good cricketer. So because of poor attitude, despite having the aptitude, he could not play it big when we are speaking of this given dimension, right? So with respect to this, when we are talking about the given dimension, we can remember that the component can also be connected with interest. So, what is interest? So, interest is associated with like our sense of like, okay, what we like to do. For example, I may like cricket, but it does not mean that I can play it. Okay. Similarly, I may enjoy listening to songs, but it's not necessary I can melodiously sing it. I may see people tapping their feet intelligently and dancing to numbers, but I may not be so smart in terms of dancing and tapping my feet. Right? So that's something which we all need to understand with respect to interest. So, in the end of the day, we can understand that attitude plus aptitude plus intelligence plus interest leads to success. Okay, so it leads to high level of success in life when we are speaking about the same. All right, so okay, I like fighting, but I can't fight well. Yeah, that can be associated with the interest, but why will someone like to fight? So okay, so the annotated PPTs are uploaded late. Well, that's something associated with the technicality, Sarashti. I can't help in that situation. Can we equate dharma to ethics? Yes. Somewhere, dharma is, we can consider, it is the manifestation of the ethics. It is moral code of conduct. So, conduct, whereas ethics motivates or guides the conduct. Okay, so that's how they are related. You should be capable to relate the terms, and that is how you can write it. Okay, so equate, they are not the same. It is the ethics which can guide the dharma of an individual, that is moral code of conduct of an individual, right? So that's there. Again, when we are further moving ahead, so I explained you so far what is aptitude. I explained you how aptitude is different from attitude. I explained you how aptitude is different from intelligence, right? So with respect to this and how it is different from interest as well, any student who joined the session late needs to do the revision later, and this is how you're supposed to understand the importance of every 5 or 10 minutes. And this is also how you need to understand you should not be late even for the lecture, the way you cannot be late for your mains class and mains exam. You cannot bother or dare to be late 10 minutes for the mains exam, isn't it? So the same applies here. All those students who want me to revise and revisit and repeat again, that's for you. Because why should the student who joined in time suffer to listen to the same thing by and by, for like laziness of the other one? Now, with respect to aptitude realization, and in that situation, the SME can support you. Okay, so poor guy, he'll have to repeat the same things. Now, when we are speaking of aptitude realization, it can be through two ways. It can be when we are speaking of it, sorry, through two, I'm saying it can be through three ways. Okay, so what is aptitude realization? Aptitude realization is converting aptitude into skill. Converting aptitude into skill. When you convert an individual's aptitude into skill, and how can you do that? That is by correct identification of aptitude. Then you can also connect it by, we can consider The motivation, so a person's motivation or resolve to pursue one's aptitude. And third, you can reflect upon is the social, cultural, and economic environment. The social, cultural, and economic environment of, we can consider, an individual when we are talking about it. So the three elements combined together leads to aptitude realization. There's also one more thing that you can understand. If either of, if either three, I should write, if either two out of three qualities are realized, there is a very high chance of aptitude realization. There's a very high chance of aptitude realization. Now, what do I imply by this given statement when I'm speaking of aptitude realization from these three perspectives? So, we all can understand that then can we say aptitude is like speciality of a person? Yes, aptitude is more like the talent, and attitude is more like your inclination to behave in a specific manner. All right, can we quote Dr. Jay Shankar here as for his interest and aptitude in political science? Yeah, you can quote anyone for that matter. The only thing which I will say, Vanshika, is that just avoid taking names of people who are present and serving in the system. I mean, definitely, if it's a question associated with internal security or something like that, you can always do that. But you can always quote so many other people, right? Rather than taking name of bureaucrats and ministers present and serving, right? Okay. Now, so with respect to aptitude realization, again today, I am in a room which is like the tablet is smaller. Yesterday, the tablet was bigger, so I was using a thicker font. It's like this teeny tiny tablet, and I always prefer that room, but I don't know why I'm allocated this room for the evening batch. So because of which choosing the font size becomes little tricky. You can understand that if I'm choosing the thicker font, the fitting content on the tablet will be tricky for me. Okay, so that's the only reason that I'm choosing this font. The student who said that please choose a thicker font, the challenge is only of the size of the tablet now. So with respect to this, but I'll try to switch for the other slides. Thank you for the advice though. Now, so with respect to aptitude realization, when we are talking about it, there are three sub components when we are talking about it. So with respect to it, first is correct identification of aptitude. Now let me give you the example of MF Hussain. So MF Hussain, he was belonging to, like, he was born and brought up in a very poor family. When he, he wanted to become the world famous painter, but he could see that there are a lot of hindrances, and the primary hindrance was that of economic conditions in which he was born and brought up, and the location. He was not staying in Mumbai, he was in Maharashtra, but in a smaller township. So he decided that I have to move to Mumbai. So he didn't even have a pair of shoes or a pair of footwear. He bare feet he entered Mumbai in a local train, and initially, to just meet the survivability, he started painting movie posters. And as he started painting movie posters, started saving some money, then he started purchasing canvas, like formally painting. And as the work started growing slowly and steadily, when he started stabilizing, despite that he never wore shoes throughout his life. He preferred to remain barefoot, and the reason was he wanted to always connect with the ground which kept him reminded of his reality, his origin, his condition from where he started. So MF Hussain, when we speak of him, so despite the economic condition which was highly impoverished, he had correct identification of his aptitude, that I can become a great painter, one. And second, he was committed that I have to become a great painter. So I can become a great painter is realizing one's potential. I am committed to work towards it is a person's motivation to resolve and pursue one's aptitude. So even when the money, monetary conditions were not favorable, he was able to do so. Recently, I was watching that TV series Sandeep Bhaiya. So in that also, I saw there was this girl who was selling tiffin to meet her basic expenses, and she reaches out to this guy who has exhausted his civil services attempts, and she keeps requesting, I've heard you are too bright, can you evaluate my copy, and in exchange I'll give you my, if I'll fix your food, I'll fix like tiffin for you. And he keeps refusing because he's too dejected with loss of his attempt, loss of the opportunity of clearing civil services exam. But she like just gives him an offer that there is this answer sheet and there is this tiffin box, just consider my offer. If you find my answers well, then you can eat the tiffin and you can just for once do this favor. And if you really like my answers, then I'll continue to write, else I'll quit preparing for the civil services exam, because my father trusts me a lot and he believes I'll make it. But somewhere the girl is highly motivated. So as she is traveling to deliver tiffin boxes, she is listening to BBC News. As she is moving to give deliveries, she is listening what aspirants are studying, what they are discussing, um, which topic they are pulling through, and what kind of opinions they are giving. So what happens is that this girl, right, this girl, she has the potential, and when this guy evaluates her copy, it's like, you are aware of IR to internal security to polity, you have such a good base of information, and you know how to articulate it, you know how to analyze it. That's the beauty. So why are you not willing to prepare for the exam? So like he said that to majority of the people I have come across, I asked them, why are you preparing for civil services exam? But to you, I'm asking, why are you not willing to prepare for the exam? So that touches upon her. He's like, you have that innate talent. Now, so she had the correct identification of her aptitude, that she can prepare and she can clear the exam, because she had that natural curiosity, and she was well connected with all the information, and she was understanding the concepts thoroughly. Second, she was motivated to study despite the hard work she had to do, all the traveling, cooking, etc. She was able to, I would say, she was able to connect with the concepts very well. She was able to understand, and she was motivated to study. So there was motivation to perform, and there was correct identification of one's talent. So even though the economic conditions were not favorable, it was helping her. So in the later half of the series, they show that not series, the episode, they show that this girl was later selected as IFS officer, Indian Foreign Services officer, right? So that's what like you can see. So that is also something that you can connect with. Shah Faisal, well, Shah Faisal was all India topper. He was a celebrity bureaucrat. He was performing well. Then he went to study abroad, and it's there that he started understanding the concepts and visualizing a better future for the people he was representing, and he decided to switch his career to politics. He joined politics. He was kept under house arrest for almost a year and a half, and after that there were other dimensions of coercion, and again he's back to again joining the services with lateral entry. So when we are speaking of all these possibilities, you can connect that a person can realize one's career, a person can realize one's dimension of making contribution through these three possibilities. Out of three, even if two are there, you can make it happen. For example, if I again say of Rajiv Gandhi, so Rajiv Gandhi, he had the aptitude of being a politician, but he was not motivated to become a politician, and he enjoyed being a pilot. And he was like, let my brother be in the politics, my mother be in the politics. When his brother died, then also he did not join. When his mother died, and he was pushed to join politics, so the social environment, the political environment was conducive for him to join politics. He had the caliber, the innate caliber of being a politician, which was proved within an year or two of he exercising politics, his domain in politics, because many people thought that he'll be a dummy candidate. But as he entered politics, within a year, he controlled everything within his reins, and he tried to smooth everything possible with respect to this. So, when we are speaking of this dimension, let us not talk about sponsorships, Vivek. Let us focus on the narrative and how the narrative is associated with this given dimension. So, well, MF Hussain Mangalam may be controversial for you, but like in the global community as well as in the cultural community, he's recognized as a painter. All right. So, if you're writing him with respect to, because you cannot deny that he has been internationally famous, his work has been internationally recognized. You cannot deny these two facts. And what are we talking about? Aptitude realization. When your aptitude is taking you to success. So, can you deny that MF Hussain was not a successful painter? You cannot, right? So, here we are not discussing about the aesthetics that he was indulging in. Here we are talking about success. So, always be very pinpointed, objective, and clear what is being discussed and how it is being discussed. That will save you from any kind of biases or do's and don'ts, or whether I should incorporate the content or example in the exam or not, right? So these are the three possibilities. So, like, that's why I gave you a lot of examples. I gave you three examples, not just of Hussain or Shah Faisal. I gave you the example of that girl or many such girls and boys who belong to vulnerable sections, very poor sections. They are able to identify their true potential, that they deserve to become a civil servant, and they have it in themselves to become a great civil servant. Second, they are motivated to study diligently, despite of all odds, despite of doing a job, or maybe despite of some financial struggles. So even if the social or economic environment is not supportive, with correct identification, diligence, and hard work, they are able to clear the exam. So that's why out of the three elements, even if two elements are there, a person can become successful, a person can realize one's aptitude. All right. So I hope all of you are able to understand the concept of aptitude realization. All right. Again, when we are further moving ahead with respect to aptitude identification, we can connect it from two perspectives: informal ways and formal ways. Now, with respect to informal ways, when we are speaking of it, so informal way, the example can be of Budhia Singh. So Budhia Singh, this little kid, okay, he just saw CRPF Jawans running, and they were running after their recruitment. Some basic marathon run was going on, and this kid randomly joined them, like in the race, after just few hundred meters that had crossed in terms of the race being started. And without stopping or taking a water break, or like, just stopping, he kept running the entire race, and he covered the 42-kilometer marathon. Like, and this unstoppable kid was, like, noticed. And interestingly, the commandant of CRPF was present, so the news reached out to him. He went and he, like, congratulated the kid, and the kid, like, got national level attention. And then this kid was supposed to get, like, sports training, but then a lot of human rights activists came forward. They said that the kid deserves a balanced and healthy childhood. Just because he can run, we cannot expose him to strenuous training. There was a lot of politics involved. And later on, the, like, coach who was assigned for Budhia Singh, he also said that there is a lot of politics involved, associated with his training, and there's a fair chance that they will either kill him or kill me. And 6 months later, his coach was actually killed. Later on, Budhia Singh was not given a proper training, and he was, because of various restrictions, he was restricted to undergo any kind of proper rigorous training, and because of which today this teenager, now he is a teenager, so today this teenager cannot even run 1 kilometer properly without huffing, puffing, and losing his breath when we are talking about it. So this is the possibility associated with, we can consider Budhia Singh when we are talking about him. Okay. So yes, you can think of Kalpana Chawla as well, Shubham. That will also be a brilliant example, that despite being from a very conservative family, so the social and, like, the environmental conditions were not favorable for her, but aptitude realization could happen because she was clear to identify her aptitude and she was ready to work towards it. So in aptitude realization, you can take the example of Kalpana Chawla as well. All right. So, how to identify the fact that one has aptitude for civil services? Ask the purpose for preparing for this exam. Are you preparing for this exam because fees has been paid by your parents? Or are you preparing for this exam because you actually know what is the purpose of this exam and what you can possibly do after getting selected? It's like asking if a cricketer is going to a young boy who's going to a national cricket training academy, and then the child is asking, how can I identify whether I have aptitude for cricket or not? You'll be like, if you can play well, you're ready to train well, and you know that what will be the outcome of good level training and what kind of sacrifices ought to be made and how you can contribute in the world of sports. That's how you can identify with your aptitude. So, the way you can say the statement for the cricketer, same as for the students. And the truth is, Vanshika, that's why I started, if you remember yesterday's lecture, with the quotation from, this August story. So, of Augastya Sen. It was like many youth, they start preparing for civil services because they are said to prepare for it. They themselves do not realize whether they have aptitude for it or not. Or many students, they keep doing things or they keep hustling or preparing for different types of exam just because they are encouraged to do so. They themselves do not identify what they are meant to do or what they are supposed to create. Okay, so that's something that like we all can identify with, and that's something that we all can connect with. All right. So and then something clicks and the person is able to become something career wise. So that's what. Anyway, let's not get into um, the a lot of examples now, because example is only to manifest the concept. If you are understanding the concept, the game has been understood well. Now, with respect to formal ways, we can see there is aptitude test or aptitude battery. With respect to aptitude test or aptitude battery, when we are substantiating it, we can connect it with the dimension of, a formal test which is conducted for the same. Okay. So you can consider aptitude. Aptitude is generally tested in the form of an aptitude battery. In the form of an aptitude battery. It tests, it means aptitude battery. So it tests a large AB, I'm just writing, aptitude battery. So it tests a large number of aptitudes at one time with a series of tests for each aptitude. For each aptitude. For example, you can think of CSAT. Civil Services Aptitude Test. It is an aptitude battery or an aptitude test. So, CSAT was introduced, when we are speaking of it, it was introduced after 2010. It was introduced with a very interesting syllabus, which you all can see. A first paper of CSAT is associated with general studies, whereby your general level of awareness related to like from history to geography, environment to polity to current affairs to all other domains of we can say dimensions important for governance is put to test. But paper 2, which is the qualifying paper and the first benchmark, if you qualify that paper, then only paper 1 is evaluated. So it is paper 2 which incorporated the interesting dimensions required for a civil servant after getting selected. So the syllabus incorporated bilingual comprehension and English language comprehension skills. After 2015, though English language comprehension skills is there in the syllabus, they did away with incorporating the term or incorporating the test of English language comprehension skill after the massive all India protest pertaining to English language comprehension skills. Again, we all can recall that there is interpersonal and communication skills, because a civil servant needs to be a great communicator. But again, there were theoretical questions asked in the initial 2 3 years. They did away with those questions as well. Third component was decision making. Decision making was more like a case study, and in the case study, out of four options, one had to be chosen. But now, with respect to the component of decision making or the case study component, when we are speaking about it, we all can connect it with, we can consider a lot of dimensions. And with respect to the dimension of decision making, as we are substantiating or as we are supporting the content, we all can again reflect, other possibilities or dimensions pertaining to it. So we all can see that in the dimension of decision making per se, we all can connect with, we can say that there were four options and there was no negative marking. For past few years, they are not asking a question pertaining to decision making in CSAT. I will advise you that if in CSAT you ever see a question of decision making coming in future, do attempt it, because there is no negative marking in decision making, because decisions are subjective and no decision is completely wrong. So that's why you'll find that, and mostly the first two options in which you have a dilemma, if you choose it, even if you don't get the full marks, at least half marks is provided. So that was another advantage of decision making. But again, UPSC has discontinued raising the questions despite the terms being there in the syllabus. Then you can see there is general mental ability and there is data interpretation, popularly called mathematics. But it's not mathematics, it's general mental ability and data interpretation. Now, why is it asked? Why was it incorporated in civil services aptitude test? So in the year 2006 or 7, I'm a little confused about which year, but either of the year this had happened, because I remember I was pursuing postgrad in yet another subject, and at that time this news had come that students who were selected in UPSC exam and they had got audit and accounting services. So those students, in those times, you will see that there were only two GS papers and there was no role of mathematics in prelims. There was GS and then there was optional. And in mains, there were two GS papers and there were two optionals with four papers. So there was dominance of optional subjects. And in two GS papers, the second paper had a bit of statistics. So any student thorough with standard 8th, ninth level statistics could easily get 70 out of 80 marks. 80 marks worth of statistics was asked. So it was that easy, more like a cakewalk. So in that situation, students cleared the exam, but they did not have basic mathematical skills. The brunt was borne by the DOPT. So what happened was, these boys who got selected in and got auditing and accounting services on the basis of their rank, they went into the service, and as they were being trained, they were unable to catch up with basic accountancy and mathematics. So what happened was that they went with the old school method, what they do in colleges or in coaching institutes. So they did a signature campaign against the teacher. So, and they sent it. So the DOPT took cognizance of it and it replaced the teacher. It brought another professor of All India repute. That professor also, after teaching for a month, after giving tests, seeing students are not performing, the students again wrote against that professor. That person was also changed. Again, third one was brought. So within a matter of 2.5 months, when the third professor was introduced and that person was changed, Atharv, I have been teaching CSAT. Okay. So CSAT was officially, it was announced that we will have civil services aptitude test. It was announced in 2009, but the first paper of CSAT was conducted in 2011, because it is associated with my teaching career, my nascent stage. It was the initial years of my teaching. So I remember the dateline more clearly than you. Okay, Atharv? So let's not get into the garbage discussion that when it was started. Let us get into the core of what is the purpose of introducing general mental ability and data interpretation. Now, with respect to this, what happened was that when this component was introduced, because when DOPT took cognizance that within a time period of almost 3 months, three professors have been changed and the students are constantly complaining, then maybe the problem is not with the professors, because they are of All India repute. Even few of them have written internationally recognized, their work is recognized internationally. So the problem is not with the professor, because hundreds of students pass under them at the university level. Maybe the problem is with the students, the candidates. So it was seen that their basic mathematical skills were so poor that they were unable to cope up with the class. And now, because they were like selected and they were under probation, and if they are not passing the probation exams, their selection will get cancelled. So seeing all these dynamics, it was noted that since how long this problem has been prevailing, and it was seen that in every batch there are few students who are big time strugglers with mathematics, and they are unable to cope up with accountancy, and auditing services. So it was written to UPSC to consider this situation and to bring about a change. And that is how UPSC came up with Civil Services Aptitude Test by replacing optional subject with CSAT. Okay, and it became a qualifying paper later. It was after 2014 that UPSC made it a qualifying paper. Initially, the marks of paper 1 and paper 2, that is GS and CSAT, both was added, and that led to the selection of the candidate for writing mains exam. It was only after 2014 that UPSC realized that the quality of students getting selected is denigrating, because it is the SSC CGL students or students from CAT background clearing the exam more easily, even though they are not prepared for the mains exam and not prepared for the GS paper. So they made the paper 2 qualifying, and then by attaching it as a filter, and then like the paper 1 was getting evaluated and a benchmark was set for it as well. So the way this CSAT syllabus came into existence, it is testing a lot of skills, like your decision making skills. Technically, that's what it is supposed to do. The interpersonal skills, it is supposed to test your, but it was considered that interpersonal skills cannot be tested at theoretical level, so the interview is there for it. So it was considered that, or even the long term engagement with an answer in essay is there, where you can see the interpersonal skill of a child. So it was done away with in the prelims level, though it's there in the syllabus. So but comprehension, if you see that comprehension, you'll realize the importance of it when, like, it's like around 30th of this month or 31st of this month to 7th of August, that I'll be conducting your sessions related to essay. And it is then that you will realize that when you have a poor understanding of language, how you fail to decode even a single sentence associated with essay. And when you struggle to decode one sentence of essay, you fail to develop the content of the entire essay accordingly. So, unable to decode a statement or what is being asked can impact in GS for 10 marks or 15 marks. But in essay, it can impact for 125 marks. And the game actually starts from prelims level, decoding the language through a passage. So, if you are smart enough to decode a passage, you will be smart enough to interpret. You will be really smart enough to interpret the possibilities associated with, we can consider the possibilities associated with the mains exam, and what all can be like created, what all can be connected in terms of the breakthroughs which can be caused. All right. So during the lecture, sometimes technical glitches occurring. Well, that's something which tech team can see. I just wanted to know if there is any of some well, Akanksha, is there any problem in terms of interpreting the content? Okay, that I'm not able to understand despite watching the recorded version. So well, I don't know how to fix it, because there are so many like technical words given, simple concepts are given, and the thing is, this is the bare minimum level to have an exhaustive understanding related to this given concept. If we lower the standard, you may be able to understand the segments, but the truth is you won't be able to qualify the exam. This is the minimum stepping stone, the minimum benchmark. So I have explained the syllabus. I have explained the sub dimensions within the syllabus. Every sub dimension is explained with definition, types, examples. All you need to do, revise multiple times. This can happen with other subjects as well. All you need to do is revise several times. So if you do not revise several times and you do not write it on paper for yourself, that this is the concept, and you do not write the keywords for yourself, like this is the concept, this is the definition, this is the dimension, drawing the flowchart of the dimension, writing the example,
till the time you do not do that, this subject will be tough for you, or it will be tough for any student. Several times, well, Priyanka have explained it that for any subject getting a grip, you need 5 revision, as it is spoken in the world of psychology, the theory of forgetting curve. You can Google search theory of forgetting curve. Any student not revising any book or chapter 5 times, it doesn't stay. Ask Akanksha or Akash, ask Priyanka, if they have taken admission 2 months back or 4 months back, the subjects that were taught, and if you have revised it once, do you remember it? Seeing the book, don't you feel that the book is alien? You know barely 10% of it. Terms look familiar, but you don't remember it. It is a mark of a student who is not diligent in revision. And do not start randomly from a specific area of the lecture. If you have missed any part from the first lecture, start from there, because the journey starts from there. Everything is intertwined and interconnected. That's what I would say. And the thing is, it is a completely new subject because you never had in school days. Another challenge is for science students. The science students have a very objective way of thinking. This, that, like that. Okay. The sense of critical capability, introspection, the sense of reflecting deep is sometimes not so profound in science students. So they generally have a tendency to, like, struggle. They have a very, like I would say, a struggler way when we are talking about it, with respect to the dimensions pertaining to coping up with the subject. They are like, oh my God, ethics is like, but all those students who just follow the basic steps. So I don't think so, Akanksha, you're writing it down. Yes, I know that. I mean, you don't even have to say that you have a science background. I know that any student who's struggling with ethics has like 99% chances that the child is from science background or commerce background. That has to be there, because the level of introspection is missing. A child has never asked in 5 years, what is the purpose of my life? What is the purpose of seeing so much of inequality and divide on the streets? What is the possibility of living this life? Is life all about earning, eating, sleeping, defecating, getting married, having children, and dying? What is the real purpose of having conscience? Why human beings can think while other animals are not so evolved and sophisticated? So when you have such deeper questions, you start trying to identify how to become a better person and how to create better solutions for humanity. So humanities discipline or social sciences discipline make you think about social problems, potential reasons, and the potential solutions for it. So the method is, Akanksha, do it today. It will help you. Just like take a piece of paper. As I explain the session, start from the beginning of the chapter. Note down the keywords, keep noting down, making flowchart as I explain. Note down the examples, note down the definitions, note down the, the segments which I draw. And once the lecture is over related to that topic, revisit your sheet which you have written on the paper. Revise that sheet and ask yourself, are you getting the basics of the subject? You will be able to understand. All right. So that's the solution. And this is the minimum level. I'll tell you very honestly, going by the approach of UPSC, this is the minimum level of like explaining you, because you need to push up your standards little high, and you'll realize that when you are seeing the case studies questions, you are seeing the mains question every once in a while in every chapter. You'll realize this all the more when I'm introducing case studies, that you have to walk an extra mile, you have to make an extra effort. And it's not like a lesser number subject. It's not like 40 marks or 70 marks. 250 marks is involved. So you have to be more thorough, more diligent in terms of revision, in terms of preparation of notes, in terms of revisiting the subject. So 20, like first revision within 24 hours, second is within 48 hours, third is within a week, fourth is within 15 days, and fifth is within a month. If you're not revising in this manner any subject, the subject is not going to stay with you. There will always be a dissonance. There will always be a conflict in remembering, recalling, understanding. All right. This applies to each and every one. So, yeah, if you want to listen to English, in that case, Chintan, yes. But academically, how in depth and sound it is, you just need to reflect by seeing the previous year question paper. There's a difference between sorry, South Indian students, but he's a North Indian student, so just giving him one word, लफाजी और विश्लेषण में अंतर होता है. ठीक है चिंतन? सो विश्लेषण के साथ साथ लफाजी करने में मैं थोड़ा बचती हूँ. अगर आपको लफाजी पसंद आती है तो आप आगे बढ़िए. ठीक है. नाउ with respect to this, as we are further moving ahead, we all can reflect upon the components associated with the dimension associated with aptitude battery. So aptitude battery is what? It is a formal test, okay? And it is a formal test of testing the caliber, the future potential of a student. So the civil services aptitude test is testing whether you are suitable to become an officer or not. So suitable to become an officer, you are able to comprehend language, interpret language correctly or not. Because if there is a, like, let's say, contractor coming up with a malicious intent, okay, and the person is having some hidden clauses which can put the system into threat, and if you don't pay attention to those clauses and you agree, you sign the agreement, you sign the contract, it will be a loss for the system, it will be a loss for your official position, isn't it? So you should be capable to read through the lines. Similarly, if there's an international report for your country, and specifically for your district, regarding the poor performance of your district, and there have been reasons, like, given, okay, so if there have been reasons associated with the given segment, um, Ravi or Ishita, don't bother for what is Lafazi. That is not associated with the core content. The problem is when I teach the core content, you people are like least focused. If I ask you what is aptitude battery, you'll be like, hey, 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 hey. Though I'm explaining it in English, right? So focus on the core content. If I was talking to Chintan, the statement was only meant for Chintan, not for the rest of you. Focus this on this given segment. Okay, now, so when in civil services aptitude test, the component of comprehension is incorporated. We all need to understand that comprehension is testing your language skills so that any manipulation is in language can be deciphered by you. Okay, so that is the purpose, or that is the approach, or that is the requirement associated with aptitude battery. Okay, it is putting your basic skills to test. Similarly, I explained that why maths is there, so that if you get into revenue services, auditing and accounting, it's not that the SSC CGL guy who qualified the exam and is a tier 2 staff, okay, a grade B employee or a grade C employee, there is a clerk, that clerk knows better mathematics than you. That should not happen. You are just signing the papers. You are just signing the papers because you were good in other subjects but not in maths. No. When you're signing, you are answerable for putting your signature. So you should be capable to run through the content if needed and see if the content is validated, it is authentic or not. And that's why basic mathematical skills is required. All right, so we can just reflect upon this given segment when we are talking about aptitude battery. Similarly, when we are speaking of achievement test, okay, so what is achievement test and how is achievement test different from aptitude battery? So achievement test, please remember that achievement test tries to judge what you have achieved, what you have achieved in the past, achieved in the past, what you have achieved in the past. It is basically associated with testing your skills that you have acquired so far. So like, for example, when we see the like, let's say, the DAF of a student, detailed application form of a student, and when we are seeing how much the child got in 10th and 12th and graduation, and where the child has been working, all those things are important for a person with respect to this. SME, please support me with miscellaneous questions which students are raising pertaining to book and class and this and that. Okay, now, so when we are speaking of this, we need to focus on understanding what is achievement test and how it is different from aptitude battery. So when we are talking about achievement test, it is associated with what you have achieved in the past. That is what is put to test. Okay, so and what is aptitude battery? It is what potential you hold for future. Okay, so aptitude test is associated with what potential you hold for the future. What potential you hold for the future. So it is associated with the components pertaining to the future. And this is associated with what you have achieved in the past. So even if majority of you have yet not been, like, let us consider, been able to, like, let's say, um, um, like be introduced to humanities subjects, like majority of you are from science background or from commerce background. So all those students who are from science or commerce background, to all those students, you can see that the subjects of science and commerce are not there in the main subject majorly, except the topic of science and technology, and that too science and technology is associated with, okay, science and technology is associated with application in our human lives. It is not to deal with, like, quantum physics or other formulae. It has to deal with its application in human life. In UPSC, the syllabus of science and tech is associated with that. Except that, rest everything in the syllabus is associated with humanities subjects: history, art and culture, Indian society, geography. After that, you can again see, and geography, you are not reading the scientific aspect of it. You are basically studying majorly human geography and physical geography, whereby a basic overview has to be understood. Polity and constitution, governance, social justice, international relation. Again, you have internal security, disaster management, ethics. So majority of the subjects in your main subject is associated with humanities, because you are going to deal with human beings. You are going to deal with human concerns. So a poor understanding of human sciences is going to impact you becoming an officer. So it doesn't matter what achievement test you have had, whether you had cleared IIT-G or not, or whether what was your rank in AIEEE, what was your rank, and whether you studied from IIM or not, whether you are a topper in your BSc MSc courses. No, nothing to do with that. Or BCom courses, nothing to do with that, because all those segments are associated with what? Achievement test. Okay. And what is this associated with? The civil services exams is associated with your aptitude battery or aptitude test. So whether you have the aptitude for being an ethical person or not, a person of integrity, a person of accountability or not, that's why ethics is a part of your aptitude test in mains exam. Okay, I hope, Akanksha, you're understanding the importance of the subject, and I hope you are there and connected, right? So, when we are speaking of this given dimension, the importance of aptitude battery or aptitude test, you all can connect the very possibility that it is nothing to do with what you have achieved from the past, how much marks you got in your science subject in 12th, or what subject you took in graduation, how much marks you got in that, which job you landed in, did you get a campus selection or not, nothing. That's achievement test. That's something mentioned in your detailed application form. This is the achievement of this child in the past. This is the kind of student or the person the child has been academically. But aptitude test is associated with the prelims exam, the inculcation of new dimensions related to prelims exam. Another segment is associated with the mains exam when we are speaking of it. Okay. So in the mains exam, all of you can see the dimensions or the possibilities associated with we all can connect with the dimensions related to the component of ethics, the component associated with the 4 GS, the rest of the 3 GS papers, essay. So essay is again a subjective elaboration of a statement. And I think when you people will see the essay topics, majority of you will have a fainting sensation seeing the 2021 and 2022 mains essay questions. Those who are feeling uncomfortable that ethics is feeling tough, see the mains question. 250 marks of essay. You goof up ethics and essay, 500 marks. No amount of effort in the optional or 4 GS papers can save you. You have to keep a balanced stance. So you have to hustle extra. Okay, hustle extra in terms of your language, in terms of your revision, in terms of developing the caliber, developing the aptitude. Okay. So for example, I'll tell you, I hated chemistry as a student when I was in school days. because I even struggled with balancing, basic thing, balancing, and I was struggling with that also. I was like, what is this, yeah? Everything is numbers, figures, like, digits, alphabets, and it's not making sense. I cannot make sense of its application. It was only when I was introduced to applied chemistry, its impact, applied science in 2005 and 6, and when I was seeing all that, I was like, wow, why was science never explained to me in this manner? Why didn't I ever come across the validity of science in this manner? I mean, why was it so dry and so like boring in standard 10th or standard ninth? I mean, if someone would have explained science with respect to its application, I would have really loved it. And later on, like, this TV series also recently came, Breaking Bad, in which the application of chemistry in real life was explained. And I was like, see, it is so amazing to know this discipline called chemistry. It is shaping human lives to betterment. It is easing our lives so very greatly. So, it was when I was getting exposed to that, it was only then that I realized that, oh, yes, that is something which makes a lot of difference. And it was only then that I was realizing that, oh, yes, this is something which really makes qualitative difference in terms of understanding human lives through chemistry. So, when did it happen? When I realized that it is unavoidable, I have to read chemistry in 2005 and 6, when I had to get introduced to applied science. And step by step, I broke open the segments in which I was struggling, because I did not have very hardcore inclination towards chemistry. Physics was okay. I really loved biology. I really loved biology, and the new national education policy, which proposes that you can have interesting combination of subjects, and the future students can have a combination like biology, geography, sociology. Future students can have that 10 years later or maybe 20 years later, because the new national education policy designs that dimension of attaining education. It was not in our times, it is not in your times. So the combination subject was missing. So I struggled with chemistry, but I developed the knack, the acumen required for applied sciences in UPSC, just by diligence and practice, multiple revisions, and understanding the importance of it. Same applies to all of you. Okay, any subject, whether, like, few of you like are writing that you hate maths. So even if you hate maths, try to break open the chapter in little chunks and pieces. Try to deal with it, and you'll realize that there is an importance attached with it. It eases life in so many ways, and it is important to learn as a bureaucrat. Okay, so that is how you learn, and that is how probably I can build upon your skills. So just get into some, we can say, deal with any subject which you're struggling with, any subject, paper 1, 2, 3, 4, or CSAT. Deal with it by breaking it into little chunks, and then it will be doable. All right. Now, so achievement test related to your past achievement, aptitude test related to your future potential that you can hold. As we are further moving ahead, aptitude for civil services. What kind of aptitude is needed for civil services when we are speaking of it? So we can see ethics in governance, the second ARC report, ethics in governance, that's the topic. It discusses that aptitude is required at three levels. At the apex level, at the topmost level, what we need is, we can see at the topmost level what is required. So it is required to have values and ethical standards. So we can say values, ethical standards, right? Values and ethical standards. At the second level, we can see that at second level, there is the broad principles which govern the behavior of a civil servant. That is code of ethics. Okay. So code of ethics. So code of ethics is needed for, like, we can consider having like an ethical conduct in the services. So when we are speaking of aptitude, now just imagine the importance of this paper that all of you are learning. So to test your civil services aptitude at the level of essay, at the level of mains through ethics paper, at the level of interview, through different ways, what is tested? Your values and ethical standards. In essay, how far will you fool around, because like there is no space to write a lot of facts. Now the questions are more thought provoking in nature, more associated with your own sense of understanding related to life and what's unfolding around it. Okay, so your values and ethical standards is put to test in essay, it is put to test in interview, it is put to test in ethics paper, because that's the highest level of aptitude that is required for civil services. So what do you need to possess, what do you need to have in yourself, in your system, in your sense of understanding? That's what is the lower level. So an elaboration, an explanation of it, that how you can manifest it in your behavior. So code of ethics is associated with what? Code of ethics is associated with how you manifest it in your action, in your behavior. And what is under it? Code of conduct. Code of conduct means how you're supposed to like carry forward your act. Like for example, I said you are not supposed to accept gifts which are more than 5,000 rupees, otherwise it will count under bribery. So code of conduct is more discreet, it is more clear, it is more like explicit, neatly laid down what are the do's and don'ts. So code of conduct. Above that, certain ethical principles commanding the ethical behavior of a civil servant under code of ethics. The word code itself is encoding, okay, enlisting. So above code of conduct means enlisted set of do's and don'ts in terms of how you need to behave. That's code of conduct. Enlisted set of ethics which you need to follow, the sense of right and wrong that you need to follow, code of ethics. Above that, in general, values and ethical standards. All of you can see that, right? Code of ethics and code of conduct, remember, is also there in your syllabus. The last chapter will be dealing with code of ethics and code of conduct in great detail. I'll be speaking about code of ethics and code of conduct for almost 5 hours. Okay, so be confident that you are going to get a lot of elaboration. Meanwhile, just remember it through examples. Code of conduct: don't take money more than 5,000 rupees. Don't take gifts more than 5,000 rupees. Whether it is Diwali, Holi, this and that, nothing. That will be breach of code of conduct. So code of conduct is what? Clear, distinct set of rules. What is code of ethics? What are the do's and don'ts? Like be a person of integrity, exercise honesty, be an we can say accountable officer. So the ethical do's and don'ts laid down in the services. Okay. And what are all these based on? They are based on broader values and ethical standards on top of it. I hope all of you can understand this, right? So the word humanity is very in place to place. Oh god, I mean, like subject and insaniyat, no, I mean, like first and foremost, humanities is different from humanity. Humanity is insaniyat, Manoj, whereas humanity is social sciences disciplines. Okay, so disciplines of social sciences. So and that's an incorrect word that you have written. Okay, you don't write humanity for a discipline, you write humanities, and humanities is associated with specific social sciences subjects or discipline. All right, so when we are so I hope all of you are able to understand this basic dimension related to aptitude, what is required with respect to aptitude in civil services. Okay, again, Vivek, you're getting into a garbage discussion that if I am getting a gift of 4,900 from multiple peoples, यहाँ बच्चा struggle कर रहा है कि what is code of ethics, what is code of conduct, repeat it twice, repeat it thrice, and you are distracting with trivial dimensions that if I take 20 lifafas of 20 envelopes of 4,900, is it ethical conduct? I mean, let's not get into this. Okay. So this time I will encourage Akanksha, sit with a pen and paper. Don't sit like this and listen. Sit with a pen and paper so that when I repeat the concepts, please note it down. Any student who's struggling with basics, please note down while I explain. For code of conduct, I repeated it twice. I'm repeating it the third time. Okay. Code of conduct is how you act. And I gave you the example, not receiving more than 5,000 rupees gift. So it is like, this is clear, this is distinct set of rules. Don't take any gift which is more than 5,000 rupees. It will be like surmounting to bribery. This is code of conduct, clearly described. Don't do this, do this. That's code of conduct. What is conduct? How you are behaving, how you are acting, right? Code of ethics will be laying down certain principles, how you need to do. So what is right, what is wrong for the services? So what is right and what is wrong? What is right and what is wrong? All right, so what is right and what is wrong? So, with respect to this given diamond, need to understand that code of ethics is associated with what is right and what is wrong. All right. So, when we are discussing about this given segment or this given scenario, we need to reflect upon this given segment with respect to it. Okay. So, code of ethics is laying down the basic principles of right and wrong, and code of ethics is getting like we need to be at the top of pyramid. No, the system will guide you from the top of the pyramid. That is, the system will tell you what are the values and the ethos to be followed. That is, what are the values and ethical standards that need to be followed at all times. Okay. So is it the code of conduct that describes the attitude? Code of conduct, yes, the code of conduct, when put to test through case studies, helps us to understand what attitude we possess in a given situation. Okay, so that's what. Um, so if, like, the case study says that you are like taking down a sand mafia, and the sand mafia caught hold of your wife and mother as they went for an evening walk and threatened them, and after threatening them said that even your life is under threat, and so what is your next course of action? So what is this? It is an example, a behavior that is given, and the innate tendency you will possess, you will respond accordingly. So your aptitude will be put to test. You are not an officer, but you are made to visualize a situation and respond to it accordingly. So when you are making a tentative response, you are indicating what values you possess, what ethical standards you possess, what is your sense of right and wrong, which is in consonance with the right and wrong which the system needs. So that's what. Okay. So can we say code of conduct is equivalent to good qualities? Code of conduct is the aspiration, the standard, that what ought to be followed. The action part, I've written act, the action part of what an officer ought to do. All right? No other words. Don't mince around with words. That's what. SME, please start typing what is code of conduct and what is code of ethics for students, because despite drawing the diagram, writing it, giving examples, some students are randomly joining in between or not paying attention while it is being explained. It is tough to repeat things on the loop 5 to 6 times. Okay. So, you can just copy paste the information for them so that they get an understanding of the concept when they get a formal language to it. Okay, because they are neither noting down the language nor drawing the diagram nor listening to it. Partial listening, partial noting down, so partial understanding is being built. So please just, like, uh, explain this, just write it down, the language of it. We will be, and for the rest of you who are patient, you just need to understand this is there in your syllabus. We will be doing it in greater detail with a lot of examples. As I said, I repeat for the second time, that there is a chapter related to it. The last chapter in your syllabus, those students who are not thorough with the syllabus, the last chapter in your syllabus is related to it. I'll be explaining it in super great detail for almost 4 to 5 hours. So you'll get to grab the concept in totality. Right now, just remember the diagram. This is how aptitude increases in a person. This is how it is put to test. I wonder the morning batch understood it within 10 minutes. Why is the evening batch struggling? And not everyone in the evening batch, few students in the evening batch. Why are they struggling? So, everyone sit with a pen and paper while I explain, and keep drawing things, keep noting down things, keep noting down examples which I speak. That will keep you more alert. Okay, keep you more alert. That will be something that is going to bring about the difference. So No, don't generalize that, Farhan, because there are students who come up with very intelligent answers from the morning batch as well as evening batch. It was better that you focus on your potential and how you can build upon it. All right. So, with respect to this, when we are further moving ahead, we can also see the possibilities related to the dimension, which is recommendations of the second ARC in the 10th report, that what values are required for civil servants. We will be discussing these values. The core of the chapter is these values. We are going to discuss these values, okay? Um, and you will be able to understand the given dimension. So, Shargun, your question got suppressed. So, please type the question once again or copy paste the question once again. So, objectivity, empathy and compassion towards weaker sections, integrity, commitment to public good, impartiality, and non-partisanship are the segments which are like suggested. They are recommended by the second ARC 10th report as values that are needed for civil servants. Okay, we'll be discussing this in greater detail soon. So again, you can see that the civil services values, as discussed in second ARC, and like ethics in governance, it is somewhere inspired by countries like UK and Australia, where they reflected upon what values are required for civil servants. For example, the Nolan Committee of UK reflected upon like what are the values which are required for a civil servant, and they came up with like comprehensive statements related to what is needed. So first one is associated with selflessness, whereby you are focusing only on public interest. You are deciding only on the basis of public interest. You are not having your own implicit interest. When your own implicit interest is not involved, then in that situation, personal biases are not there put to action. When personal biases are not there, because of that, we all can see that a person is able to connect with, a person is able to build or substantiate the concepts more thoroughly related to making a difference in poor sections life. So you won't be exercising favoritism, you won't be exercising any form of we can say nepotism. If you are acting selflessly, you won't be taking bribe, you won't be exercising any kind of favor to any individual if you are acting upon selflessness. Okay, I don't think so that this is tough. Started studying by the book ethics before the NCRT that you told. No, Sargun, that's perfectly fine. You can just go through the concepts which is being taught in the class and reflect upon the same chapter in the book, in the Byju's book. The book will be a standard above the lecture. You will realize that the book is more detailed and loaded with technical jargons. And that's again another level of language you need to build upon for the mains exam. Okay, by a lot of writing practice you will develop that language. So you have to deal with a lot of writing practice. Again, one thing which I will be advising to all of you, please remember that for getting selected in UPSC exam, you need to do a lot of writing. I've never ever seen a single student in my lifetime with more than 12 years of teaching experience. Now it's like almost 14, I would say, going to be 14. And I have never ever seen a single student in my lifetime clearing this exam who does not do writing practice. Just by reading, you do not clear this exam. Minimum 2 to 3 hours of writing is needed. And writing means making flowcharts. It can be associated with solving previous year question. It can be associated with once you're thorough with the chapter, you are taking questions by closing the books and writing it. But that's the final stage. First stage is like making the flowcharts, understanding the concept, making notes. Second stage is solving the previous year question by opening the notes, seeing, identifying paras, concepts which needs to be written in the answer. So opening the books and notes and solving the previous year question paper. And then third stage is when you close everything and you appear for tests, you try to write the answer on the spot. Okay, so and if you're not following these rules related to UPSC preparation, all the 4 GS papers, your preparation is struggling. Okay, so I will advise all of you, please get into a lot of writing practice, then only you get command over mains preparation. It's not prelims ki you are just encircling and getting selected. All right.
Anyway, SME, please support me with other miscellaneous queries. I'll continue with the discussion. So, integrity, when we are discussing about this given dimension, okay, so with respect to integrity, when we are reflecting upon it, so integrity is what? Maintaining uprightness, honesty at all times. So, maintaining honesty at all times makes you a person of integrity. Okay, so you are at all times maintaining an honest disposition. Okay, so you honesty at all times, at all times, right? So there is no kind of financial or other obligations to other individuals or organizations, so that they don't influence your official duty. Again, you can reflect upon it in terms of objectivity. When we are discussing about objectivity, so in objectivity we can see that it is associated with carrying out the public business. Along with carrying out the public business, we can see that it is associated with public appointments. So like in simple language, what is objectivity? Objectivity is looking into the merits of the case and then deciding. Okay, so at all times you are looking into the merits of the case, and then you are deciding who to appoint, who to give the contract, who to recommend for a job, okay, or for any rewards and benefits. Okay, so you are only focusing on the merits of the case, the merits, the facts, the merits or the facts of the case, the merits or the facts of the case. All right, again the third subseg, like the fourth subsegment, is accountability. So accountability means when you are responsible, when you are being responsible to what you have done. Okay, so how are you responsible? You hold a responsible behavior when you own your decisions. Along with owning your decisions, you are open to scrutiny, that if tomorrow someone wants to judge, okay, then you are open for the scrutiny aspect as well. Okay, so along with this, again, so Krishna, sit with pen and paper. When I was saying that how to indulge in writing practice, I said like three steps. Didn't I say three steps? Right. So when I was discussing about three steps of writing, you should have, if you had pen and paper in front of you, you would have been like, oh, three steps of writing. Immediately you would written it down. That's the purpose of sitting with pen and paper. And any time that I'm discussing, you just have to take things down, that oh, these are things which are not a part of the academic thing which is mentioned in the PPT, but it is important for my preparation, so let me just note it down. So three stages of writing is: first, preparing notes or flowcharts, so flowcharts and notes. Second is solving PYQs by opening the books and notes and seeing whether you can identify the answer. And third is appearing for tests. Okay, I hope I'm clear. Now, with respect to this, again, when we are talking about it with respect to openness, so openness is associated with transparency. 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 In the component of transparency, all of us are, like, supposed to understand this. All of us are supposed to realize this given component, that openness is associated with holders of public office. When we are talking about it, that they should be as open as possible about all the decisions, okay, about all the decisions and actions that they take. So they should, like, give reasons for their decision, why they took a specific decision. They should publish the decision, I mean, like through e-governance and m-governance, so that people are clear that what has been taken and what decision has been taken and why it has been taken. There should be no restriction to the flow of information per se. The wider public interest is in like informing the people of what is happening and why is it happening. Again comes the component of honesty. So with respect to this, accountable behavior leads to transparency. Transparency is openness. Okay. Accountability is when you behave responsibly. So when you're responsible, you will be a transparent person. So they are connected, but not similar. Okay, Chinu? Good you asked this question, because a few students can struggle with respect to this. So, all right, fine, Farhan. Now, with respect to this, we can also see this segment pertaining to leadership. So, honesty, all of you understand what is honesty. That is like you have to maintain an upright conduct at all times. So, this is an upright conduct. That's why I'm writing all the like synonym terms simultaneously. So, upright conduct. And leadership is associated with promoting the principles of leadership, like, whereby you are upholding the principles of leadership. Honesty, Simranjit, is associated with having the honest conduct in the moment. Integrity is exercising honesty at all times, uprightness at all times, come what may. We will discuss integrity soon, okay, because integrity is one of the civil services value, so we will discuss integrity in greater detail. Now, so aptitude for civil services, when we discuss about it, so draft of Public Service Bill 2007. So draft of Public Service Bill 2007 holds four dimensions associated with the values that civil servants need to possess. So first is associated with nationalism. So nationalism, I said, national interest. You should hold patriotism. What is patriotism? Patriotism is ready to sacrifice for the larger interest of your country, ready to sacrifice your personal interest, your comfort, your well being, even your life in the service of the nation. That is being patriotic. Okay. So, service towards nation, nation first policy. You are ready to compromise with your physical, mental, familial comfort in the, we can say, in the conduct of serving the country, in the, we can say, in the line of serving the country. And mind it, anyone can be that, not only a soldier. When a farmer is working for extra hours in the field, that is also patriotism. When a doctor is, like, even in odd hours, when a patient who is like really suffering or dying, and the person leaves one's sleep or one's comfort and steps like out of the house to save the person, that is also patriotism. When a teacher realizes that mains exam is round the corner, and even if it is costing my personal life and my physical comfort, that taking so many classes can be little tedious, but for 15 days, when a teacher is ready to hustle extra from morning to night for the sake of main students who are going to be the future bureaucrats of this country, that is also patriotism. So, patriotism can be exercised by different people in their own capacity when they are trying to give their best skills forward in the line of the nation, that this is the skill I possess, this is the time to perform, let me go an extra mile, compromise with my sleep, comfort, etc., if that serves the purpose of building the nation better. All right, Farhan, I got you. I hope you got your answer. All right. So everyone can be patriotic. Everyone can be patriotic in their own capacity. Whatever skills they have. Like, you can be patriotic by understanding the importance of learning these basic skills, not in a bookish manner, not in an academic manner. Hi, itna padhana hai. Hi, I have to study so much. Oh my God, there is so much. No, not like that. If I study today, I will be a more matured and a polished person. I will be a better citizen for this country. I will be a more informed citizen for this country. I will take better decisions while exercising my democratic rights, while casting my vote. I will be an informed person for future generations if I'm interacting to juniors or children. Okay. So, when you are patriotic, okay, you are able to understand the purpose of your life, the purpose of your conduct, the purpose of what you ought to do. Okay, I hope all of you are understanding that. Farhan, are you present or have you vanished in the thin air? I hope you are there and you are getting the answer. Is it similar to utilitarianism? Well, utilitarianism in this situation will be little superfluous, Alisha, for the simple reason that utilitarianism is when you are doing the kind of cost benefit analysis, how it is going to benefit, how it is going to. Here, some emotional connect and passion is also involved along with the cost benefit analysis. All right. Yes, there will be some altruism also inducted in it when we are talking about it. So, Preetham, first lecture, please revisit
like the first lecture beta. I understand that like being at that level in standard 12th can be little taxing. I can understand that. So understand things in bits and pieces, and simultaneously start with the basic books, the NCRTs. Okay, and after reading the NCRTs, then you just revisit this session once again, and after revisiting this session again, then go ahead with the we can say the Subbarao book. Okay, just go para after para. Don't be under the pressure to understand like full chapter within a day. Don't be under the pressure. Given the fact that you are in standard 12th, you can go pretty slow. You can go pretty slow. Okay, but I hope you are engaged, you are understanding the concepts, you are enjoying the concepts, and you're finding it very much relevant to your present life. It is very much connected to our day to day life. I hope you are able to understand that. Yes, utilitarianism is associated with greatest happiness of greatest number, but in that some marginal segments can be left out. Okay, so that's why we are not only talking about the greatest happiness of greatest number only, Anushka. We are talking about national interest, whereby even if many people are not happy about a situation, we are taking it in the interest of the larger nation. There are times when news channels are very happy that why the secrets were not out, or why the game plan is not discussed by the army or the paramilitary, how they are going to cull the terrorist. So you're not like inclined to make everyone happy. You are inclined to perform your duty and see the larger goal. What is in the larger interest of my country in the long run, even if it displeases or does not satisfy many people in the present? That's why it is not only based on utilitarianism. I hope that's clear. All those students who are struggling, utilitarianism, it is connected to utilitarianism. But if you threadbare open the philosophy behind it, you'll realize it is something more than utilitarianism. All right? Okay. So now moving ahead, Farhan has again disappeared in thin air. He'll come with some other interesting comment after some time. And when he comes, I will be rebuking him. I'll be like, okay, Farhan, where were you? You all will be witness to that situation. All right. This is what happens. Like, when students are not so sincere, missing this session every 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then saying that why we are struggling. And I specifically addressed this sub segment because he had raised a comment like half an hour back, which I thought that maybe I can connect it with some concept, theoretical concept, and explain it to him. Anyway, getting back, so allegiance to the constitution, you're all the time abiding by the values of the constitution. These values are there in your conduct, that is objectivity, impartiality, honesty, diligence, courtesy, and transparency. We will be taking these values up little later in greater detail. And integrity, absolute integrity, no compromise with your sense of integrity. That is something which all of you need to understand. All right. So with respect to this, when we are further moving ahead with it, yes, there is a great difference in nationalism and patriotism. Vishal, if you really want to read it, there have been a lot of articles associated with it. There was an article on New York Post written by one of the Indian authors. So you can just Google search this New York Post, and then you can difference between nationalism and patriotism. You can read that, because explaining it will burn a sizable hole in the lecture in terms of time. And it's not the core concept right now, so I don't want to sacrifice the lecture's time. So you can read this difference between this. Again, I had discussed you that please read the article written by Rabindranath Tagore on nationalism, narrow nationalism and broader nationalism, types of nationalism. So you can read that as well. All right. So as we are further moving ahead, and I had discussed this concept just a day or two back. I remember 2 days back, nationalism. I shared that narrow nationalism can encourage a biased feeling when, like Hindu nationalism, Islamic nationalism, Christian nationalism. So when you are defining a narrow definition to who fits in the idea of your nation, like Hindu Rashtra, Islamic Rashtra. So you are defining the idea of nationalism with a myopic level where you are fitting few communities but not all. You want to treat them as second grade citizens, or you want to kick them out of the country. So this version of nationalism can be a threat to patriotism. This can be a threat to diversity and vivacity of a country. All right. So you can read more about types of nationalism later. Okay, that's there. Now, with respect to this, Pratik, I had addressed this issue when Akanksha had raised the concern. Were you present at that time when I was explaining the method how to deal with the challenge? Were you present, or did you appear just few minutes back? Okay, when you were present at that time, follow those steps which I had shared with Akanksha, that how to deal with the ethics paper. Okay, step by step. A lot of writing, because writing builds our sense of familiarity. Any subject in which we are finding it tough, when we write it, it makes us familiar to the terms, to the explanations, to the technical jargons. It gives us clarity about examples, clarity about the purpose of the subject in our life. Imagine ethics is the only paper which is connected to your, like, if to your existence, not just material existence. Science can solve the crisis of material existence. Your inert existence, your spiritual existence, your mental existence is determined by ethics. Your social existence is determined by ethics. So imagine how critical the paper is. So keep writing and explaining the concepts to yourself. It may take some time, but the things will stay. The things will stay. All right. Now, so after these, like, we can consider aptitude for civil services in the draft of Public Service Bill 2007. The major constitutional values, you can recall the Constitution. You remember sovereignty, socialism, secularism, democracy, all these being a part of the Constitution. So how to upkeep and uphold the values associated with them, how not to compromise with these values. So any student who has, like, let us say, struggling, any student who's struggling and is making passing a remark related to another community, oh, X community behaves like this, or X community thinks like this, such a student is not abiding by the constitutional value of secularism. Such a student is not abiding by the concept of equality and fraternity. And when such glimpses make in, like, let's say, examples in essay or in ethics, then the examiner can sniff it, that the constitutional value of fraternity, secularism, is missing. This child can be a biased officer after getting into the services. So you have to be very particular in the way you think, the way you, like, process information, and free it from all garbage coming from WhatsApp, like, posts, all the garbage coming from, we can say, different other channels and handles which corrupt your mindset. Like, living the constitutional value is going to solve half the woes regarding what I need to do as an IS officer. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to upkeep at all times. Okay. So be thorough with these constitutional values. This is what I would suggest. So in this foundational values of civil services, first and foremost, what are foundational values? Means, what are basic values? So when we are talking about the foundational values for civil services, we are reflecting upon it with respect to what is right, with respect to India, in terms of what values ought to be there. So India has a democratic culture. We need to build trust in the public at all times as a civil servant is taking decisions when we are speaking of it. So, SME, please type it for Shubham, the three-step process for preparation of ethics for and also for other GS papers. Please type it, okay? Because I have spoken it 3 times. I want to continue with the topic. Now, with respect to it, why we need the civil servant, why do we need the foundational values in civil services? We need to have it because a civil servant holds important positions which involve trust. So if the person is holding specific values, basic values, the common masses will have faith that the officer is not biased, the officer is not prejudiced, the officer is not, like, exercising a biased approach towards a specific individual when we are speaking of this given dimension. Okay, so when we are speaking of this given possibility pertaining to how important, like, foundational values are for civil services, we need to understand that it is important because it builds trust. Okay, along with that, we can also see that it is also important because it like, creates special obligations, so wide ranging powers and special obligations. When we speak of it, it also creates, like, managing or entrusting the possibility associated with the given dimensions pertaining to this when we are talking about it. So we can also connect with this given possibility. We can also see that it provides, like, better delivery services, means a civil servant can deliver better to the to all aspects of community life. So it builds trust, the person can deliver better, the person can fulfill the obligations and responsibilities to the masses when we are speaking of this given segment. So as we are understanding this very dimension, the civil servant will be able to exercise fairness. There will be fairness in the decision making process, there will be integrity in decision making process. We will be able to see professionalism in decision making, responsiveness in decision making, and impartiality in decision making, which will pave the way for a healthy democracy, a healthy way of executing the, we can consider like, the possibilities per se. Do constitutional values also remain static? Yes, constitutional values, see, ethics and values do not change. If you remember, I had given the characteristics of ethics as well as values. So I said that they do not change until and unless there is a sudden, like, we can say, change, like Ashoka. I said that after Kalinga war, his values changed. But on an average, ethics and values are perennial in nature because they are in the larger interest of humanity, larger interest of common good. That's why they are more stable in nature. Okay, the constitution is open to amendment, but at the same time you are aware of, like, we can say, Keshwananda Bharti case, that the basic structure of the constitution cannot be altered and amended. It will be any change introduced per se which is challenging the basic structure of the constitution will be void ab initio, right? So you can just recall that, Harsh. So the constitution is open to amendment, but not the basic structure. And what is the basic structure? The basic structure is holding the foundational values. All right. Okay. So further, we can reflect that the civil servant is supposed to constantly behave with integrity, dedication to public service, impartiality, like, political neutrality and anonymity. And this factor of anonymity is something which is coming nowadays under scanner, when a lot of, like, aspirants are continually getting exposed to the possibility of making videos and reels. There is a media manager working with the, we can say, with the selected IS officer and constantly making videos. The officer did this, the officer did that. See, it's good to publicize all the good work that is done. Publicize the good work. Publicize the, like, the execution, the impact on people's lives, not your face, your speech, your conduct. Publicize the impact, because people will develop trust that some good work is done in the system, some good act has been carried forward in the system. So that will be beneficial for the people, because we need to generate information and trust. Okay, but when the camera is turned and it is only the officer that is visible, what the person said, what the person is explaining, how the person is scolding, that is narcissism. That is not the way a civil servant needs to conduct himself or herself, because the system is based on anonymity. A lot of seniors who are in 50s and 60s and 40s, who have contributed tremendously in the system without necessarily glorifying the work. If you are good, your work shall speak. The system recognizes it. And it is the entire system which is functioning as a team. So when you're glorifying yourself as a lady Singham or as a male Singham through your media manager, a guy who's working with you all the time and making videos and reels, the feature of anonymity, the value of anonymity is ruled out. Okay. So anonymity is important because you have to recognize, we can consider, you have to recognize the importance of the team, that it is the system that is functioning. You are a part of the team, you are a part of the system who's facilitating the work. Okay, so that is something which you need to respect at all times. Now, we all can see that with respect to this, the constitution, the laws, the rules, the regulations, they incorporate the values that are expected from a civil servant. All right, when we are speaking of this given possibility. So when we are implementing the facets accordingly, related to it, we all can see that these values cannot be compromised, and when these values are taken care of, it is then only that like we can say a good rule, we can say transparent rule is created. Okay, we can also see that when such values are absent, then there will be cognitive dissonance, or there will be ethical dilemma. What is the right thing to do, what is the wrong thing to do? So a person gets confused, in this situation what should I do? It is only when the ethics are not strong, only when the values are not strong, that a person feels confused what to do. Because if you know what the values are that you have to uphold at all times in all situations, whatever the situation is that is put before you in the case study or in other ways, you are able to say that this is the action that ought to be performed in all situations. All right, so I hope all of you are able to connect with this given subdimension. All right, so cognitive dissonance as well as abuse of power is put to check when civil services values are adhered, when we are able to live it. uh, some officers like this mostly posted videos of their action and their daily work. Why does the government not take action? And see, the government will not take any action, but it is not something which is appreciated by the seniors. A lot of people, they do glorify themselves. They keep documenting the issue which I imply to say, from which you can get inspired for future when you become an officer. Document the work. People deserve to know the good work that is being done. Don't document yourself. And you can very well sense when the person is documented and when the work is documented. So focus on the work, the good work. All right, that's something which can be explained. Some IS officers have their own YouTube channel. There's no problem in having a YouTube channel and inspiring and informing people. The problem is when there is self glorification and not information dissemination related to what work is being done. All right, so that's what. So types of foundational values, when we talk about it, there is end based, end oriented value. Another word for it is teleological value. So teleological is when you focus on the goal, and means oriented value when you focus on what methods you resorted to. This is also called deontological value. This is probably the fifth or seventh time we are revisiting these words, so be very thorough with them, memorize them. Okay, deontological literally connected to the word duty. When you are performing, focusing more on your duty, focusing more on the methods, more on the means. So when you are means oriented, okay, then you are having a deontological approach. Okay, teleological is when you're focusing on the goals. Okay, so when you're focusing on the goals means at all times you should try to achieve the directive principles, the fundamental rights. So when you are focusing on the goals, what goals? The constitutional goals. When you are focusing on the means, what are the means? What are the methods? So you are following a method of transparency, a method of responsiveness, a method of efficiency, right? So what is required as foundational values for civil services? Both. You need both teleological values as well as deontological values. You need both of them. All right. Now, when we will be discussing case studies, Suman, at that time, be alert. I will repeat this word cognitive dissonance. Okay. So there you will see it will be situation based, that this has happened and the officer is struggling what to do. Should I go ahead with this, my private interest, my private life, or should I go ahead with the public life? All right. Yes, teleological is associated with ends, okay, or purposes. Now, with respect to this, yes, that fellow election commission breaching the code of conduct, I had taught him once, okay, in Lucknow, and I was so disappointed when I saw the image. I'm connected on one of the social media handles. I saw and I was like, how can he post this? This is an officially secret. I mean, though it is known to the larger masses, it is known to the political parties, it is known like who is getting posted where, but you're not supposed to glorify it on social media handle. So when that fellow, he got the duty by the election commission and he like posted a picture with the vehicle behind, I was so deeply disappointed. I was like, this is what happens when you don't study ethics properly but somehow make it to the system. And just 2 days later I heard that he was suspended and that work was taken away from him because he breached the code of conduct of anonymity. He was not supposed to publicize it. So that did happen. So correctly recalled Shubham. So I was so disappointed, and that is what happens, that you're like, oh, I was giving all the correct theory at all times in an upright manner, giving all the segments. Why don't students revise the theory? Because tomorrow they have to put it in application. Okay. So yeah, Abhishek Singh. So and it's, see, I mean, like, it's such a disappointment to remember a student who's selected yet not following the ethical code of conduct and remembering the chapters properly. Anyway, with respect to this, when we further move ahead regarding this, I taught him in Lucknow, Abhishek Singh को. तो ऐसे गोबर बच्चे सेलेक्टेड होके सिस्टम में फिर प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट करते हैं. Anyway, so when we are talking about this, with respect to this, um, and an individual or a student cannot be blamed, because this is how the culture of sensationalism has come into existence, whereby after selection there is suddenly so much of media, so much of limelight, so much of hogging of attention, that subconsciously in like mesmerized or charmed by the initial limelight, and not having the due maturity, not having, I would say, not being thorough with the ethics and the values, it is very easy to succumb to the vanity of, like, portraying yourself or glorifying yourself, and forgetting that the system is about anonymity, the value of anonymity. Anyway, so is this sensationalism in every country? No, Sahil. Because India is a feudal country, that's why bureaucracy holds a lot of importance, and that is why there is so much of sensationalism associated with bureaucracy. The more things get privatized, bureaucracy starts losing its grip. Like, for example, in Mumbai or in Delhi or in Chennai or in Kolkata, you might not know all the officers who are holding different posts and positions. So the larger cities, which are cosmopolitan townships and which are also associated with a lot of multinational corporations and different types of officers related to different departments staying in the city, the individual glorification does not take place. So you will see that the glorification is more related to hinterland areas or smaller townships, because there, there is not enough opportunity, there is limitation to the conduct of work that is being done. So for almost everything that is getting passed, the signature of the officer is needed, hence the person becomes important, and hence the glorification. Okay, so that's the answer to the question, that is sensationalism present in all countries. Anyway, so we have already discussed the draft of public services bill few slides back, so I'm not going to repeat this. Same, I'm not going to repeat the constitutional values, because we saw this just few slides back. And with respect to this, the Nolan committee also we have reflected. So we are not going to reflect upon that as well, because we have discussed it in greater detail few slides back. Okay, so we are going to start with one by one the, like, we can say, the foundational values. So we are going to start with objectivity, further moving to empathy and compassion, then integrity, and so on and so forth. So let us meet after a break. It is like 6:49. So 6:49 plus 15 minutes break. Let us meet after it. Values ought to be taken care of. The suggestions given by the Nolan Committee, and also the draft of the Civil Services Bill, that what values ought to be adhered and what values ought to be taken care of. On this note, we further resume the insights pertaining to like the core or the foundational values when we are speaking of it. Is anonymity sometimes cumbersome? Cumbersome in the sense, why will it be cumbersome? I mean, there are so many officers who have served in the system, thousands of them. Has it been cumbersome for them for survival and for executing their work, Vivek, over the decades? So the question, I think, itself holds the answer. Anyway, with respect to objectivity, when we are speaking of it, we all can like reflect upon the segment pertaining to the like dimension as discussed by Nolan Committee. Okay, Nolan Committee, typo error.
Okay, so the Nolan Committee, which describes what objectivity is all about. So objectivity, as all of you can understand, it is associated with, like, always holding the facts in the case, the merits in the case. So as per the facts or merit, see, the word merit is given, the facts or the merit, the facts, or we can consider the merit of a case, helps you to decide the appointments, the, like, let's say, awarding the contracts, recommending the benefits. And the choice cannot be made on any other criteria. No other criteria should be entertained. It should always be the merits of the case, the facts of the situation, that should lead to the choices made when contracts are awarded, or appointments are made, or benefits are shared. Okay, so you need to understand that in that situation, it will be free from the vice of caprice. Vice means, we can consider the negative impact, like, of any form of dishonesty or any form of corruption. Okay, so the execution can take a leaf out of the book of judiciary by suo moto, supply of reasons for every action. This means the executive means the bureaucrat. Okay, so the bureaucrat can take any specific page from the law book, from the judiciary. Any page means any segment, any dimension from the law can be taken up and can be used to use it as a reason why the person took a specific action. For any decision that a person is taking, any action the person is taking, okay, the person can seek inspiration, the person can take the insight from, we can consider, the law books, from the judgments made previously, and it can be the basis why a bureaucrat decided a specific thing, why and how. So the requirement of recording the reason by itself is a great safeguard that inhibits the decision maker from being subjective. Means, when you have to record the reasons why you decided in the favor of a specific company, why you gave the contract to a specific company, or you appointed a specific person. Okay, or you can consider that you appointed, you gave certain, extended certain benefits to an individual. So when you do anything as such, then you are able to exercise, then you are able to understand and hold the possibility that, why a person was taking a decision in a specific situation. And that is something which saves from subjectivity. Like, there is no subjectivity involved, because you have to explain the reason. And when you have to explain the reason, you will always go by fair means. Okay, so fair means, you will always go by, factual reasons. You will always go by, we can say, merits of the case, right? So merits of the case, and that is what will get documented. And when that is documented, then what will happen? Objectivity shall prevail. Objectivity shall prevail, right? I hope all of you are understanding that. So to remain objective, you have to look into the facts of the case, the fair ways how it should be exercised, the merits that are involved in the case, because of which a specific individual ought to be benefiting from it. All right. So that's something which all of us need to understand. Now, objectivity, so you're sticking to the facts, you're sticking to the evidence associated with a case. You are resorting to truth. You're always, like, we can consider, giving importance to truth. Okay, it is also like evaluating a situation fairly based on facts, without any bias, any external influence. That is how you are empirical in nature, and that is how you put subjectivity under check. You do not exercise subjectivity in any case. Now, you remember there was, not, you don't remember, a morning student actually quoted Jean-Paul Sartre. I was so amazed by the level of reading that children are making nowadays, and some students are really reading like a good quality content. So the child said that, ma'am, but Jean-Paul Sartre says that objectivity cannot be maintained by human beings. That is low order aspiration. So I said that yes, we'll be discussing about it when I'm discussing that how in complex situations maintaining objectivity at all times is neither possible nor desirable. So there is a limitation
how far you can exercise objectivity. So first we are understanding the importance of objectivity, the importance and impact of objectivity. Importance and impact of objectivity. That is something which we are able to see over here in this material that we are, just a second, that we are reading right now. Okay, so okay, so but we'll be also seeing that how objectivity at all times, okay, is not maintained when we are speaking of this given dimension. So when we are like elaborating upon the given situation, we all can see that a civil servant is always making a choice on the basis of merits of the case, on the basis of duties, on the basis of facts, on the basis of, we can consider the situation that is that the person is exposed to, and what like is the fairness of the situation, what are the facts of the situation. When all that is kept in account, then the decision is taken on an objective basis. Max Weber spoke of this when he spoke of bureaucracy as rational legal authority. He said that bureaucracy is a rational legal authority because bureaucracy is at all times following an objective outlook. Bureaucracy at all times is following certain specific rules and regulations, and on the basis of law it is deciding, it is making specific decisions. So Max Weber, he spoke of rational legal authority, and he said that it is the rules, regulations, the facts are kept in consideration before deciding. Okay, so kept in consideration, okay, by the bureaucrat, by the rational legal authority, and that is how we are able to exercise objectivity in bureaucracy. Okay, so and when the rules and regulations are there and the rules and regulations are exposed to all, it is exposed की जगह मुझे disclosed word लिखना चाहिए. Exposed has a negative meaning, is disclosed. Is disclosed to all. Okay, so when it is disclosed to all, it is then that we develop a wholesome understanding that yes, why something has been decided, on the basis of what rules, regulations, laws the bureaucrat was deciding a specific thing. Okay, so with respect to this, when we are like reflecting upon objectivity, yes Alicia, we'll be discussing about it, like specifically the role of a bureaucrat in complex situations. Hold your horses and focus on what is being discussed. We will be taking that angle, that perspective little later. So when we are speaking of objectivity, so in objectivity is something which brings rationality. It keeps you to record the facts of the case, why you decided something, on what basis you decided. It keeps specialization intact because you are choosing the most specialized people in the system. The recruitment is based on specialization. It is based on skills. You can predict that the person who's having the highest set of skills, highest level of aptitude, will be the one recruited by you if you are the senior recruiting the people. So there is predictability. You exercise equality and fairness. You respect the rules, regulations, and thus you respect the structure. Okay. Again, objectivity can also be seen from this example of the Lady of Justice. Lady of Justice. Why is she blindfolded, people? Lady Justice. ऑफ लिखने की जरूरत ही नहीं थी. Lady Justice. Why is she blindfolded? Yes, yes. So it is for not exercising any kind of bias or partiality. So not exercising any form of bias or partiality. So then what are you like exercising? So you are objectively looking into the merits of the case, right? Objectively looking into the merits of the case. Looking into the merits of the case. So when you are having an objective approach, that is why the lady is blindfolded, because objectivity is maintained. Same is the reason why we have commissions and committees. So commissions and committees are set up to bring objectivity. How objectivity is brought? By commissions and committees when we speak of it. So we get a lot of, we all know that we get a lot of experts, right? So like we can say a lot of experts, a lot of experts when sit down to decide, comma, they bring out all the subjectivity, they bring out all the subjectivity and potential biases of a case or of a situation. So they bring out all the subjectivity and potential biases. Hence, it is easy to neutralize subjectivity. It is easy to neutralize subjectivity. It is easy to neutralize subjectivity, right? And this neutralization of subjectivity can also be seen when, I can also give you one more example other than commissions and committees, that is of constitutional bench. When constitutional bench is made, whether it was Keshwananda Bharati case, or there was decriminalizing of section 377, or Sabrimala case, any kind of constitutional bench, when it is created, a bench for decision making or for like jurisdiction, when it is created, it is to rule out any form of subjectivity and to neutralize the subjectivity and bring in the objectivity of a given case. All right. Yes, you can think of cabinet committees. That's why I said commissions and committees. So in committees, the cabinet committees are also incorporated. So different definition of justice, which she won't stand any partiality or favoritism. Yes. So when we are talking about she is looking into the merits of the case, no partiality or favoritism. So in other words, she is going to look into the conditions objectively, isn't it? Yeah. Mrityunjay. So Lincoln also said about objectivity, my paramount objective. Objective means goal. Objectivity is different. Having objective approach, a factual approach, a logic based approach is different from the word objective. Objective means goal. So he said, my foremost goal, my most important goal. So here objective is what is written, Vivek. Don't mix the words. Okay. So is to struggle to save the union and to save or destroy slavery. So that was like his goal. Don't mix objective with objectivity. So objectivity is maintaining like we can say a factual clarity, a logical clarity. So there is a logical clarity based on facts, merits of the case, merits of the case, and fairness. All right. So I've given you the key words also to memorize. So with respect to this, when you are understanding this objectivity with respect to the given dimension, we can also connect it with objectivity in complex situations. With respect to this, I have like we can take up the example of COVID-19. In COVID-19 cases, we could see that different bureaucrats acted differently, right? Different bureaucrats acted differently, right? So different bureaucrats acted differently. Like for example, we could see that like some bureaucrats, they set up like relief camps. They set up like for the labor class that were migrating, so relief camps, toilets, shelter homes, food packets, that was created. Even the functional buses were created. Few bureaucrats, they started manufacturing sanitizers in bulk, that 1 liter of sanitizer produced in 5 rupees or something like that. Again, we could see like a lot of bureaucrats, they like there was another bureaucrat, one more interesting example, that was a student's friend, another one of my students who was selected, his friend was posted in Maharashtra, and he quoted, later I read about him in newspaper, it was so enervating to read about such students, or he was not my student but student's friend. So it was so enervating to read that such amazing officers also exist. So this boy, he was a doctor, so he got selected as an IAS officer. And then he realized as a doctor that if the pandemic blows up out of proportion, what would be the first thing that would be needed? So he realized that first a person would be needing oxygen. And then he realized that there is lack of sufficient supply of oxygen in his district. So whatever funds he had, in 2020 October, he started working on making an oxygen plant. Within 6 months, the oxygen plant was ready. By the time COVID like burst like a bubble, like in 2000, like 2021, like we can say April onwards, by that time his district was the only district in Maharashtra which was not importing oxygen from Bhilai and Raurkela and Bokaro. Okay, Bokaro was one of the, in fact, it was leading in exporting oxygen toward all other parts of India. So his district was the only district that was not importing oxygen because he had already constructed the oxygen plant. So why was it happening? It was because, now the answer to this question is that objectivity in complex situations is neither possible nor desirable. Different, like we can consider, bureaucrats will have different possibilities associated with, like, the given dimension. Please look into the concern of Jadhav SME, because that will need like detailed explanation from polity point of view. We are not teaching polity, so I think you can support him. Now, so objectivity in complex situation, when we are talking about it, please remember that, um, first, is it possible for a civil servant to maintain objectivity at all times? At all times? If this is the question, so the question can come in two ways. Either the question can come like this, that, like, is it possible for a civil servant to maintain objectivity at all times, or discuss the role of objectivity in complex situations pertaining to civil services? In either of it, you will be writing that it is neither desirable nor possible. It is neither desirable nor possible to maintain objectivity at all times. And what is the logic? The logic is, in unforeseen situations, in unforeseen situations, a civil servant has to take has to take subjective decisions, has to take subjective decisions, has to take subjective decisions, right? So for example, first example which I gave you is of COVID-19, whereby different civil servants, different bureaucrats acted differently to contain the case, right? Again, we can also reflect upon this given situation. For example, you can also remember the Taj attack. So the Taj attack 26/11, as you all can recall, and you can recall the role of Sandeep Unnikrishnan, right? So Sandeep Unnikrishnan, he laid down, like, the example of one of the most exceptional officers, brilliant officers in the history of India. And his subjectivity could help us solve the crisis in such a manner that, we could effectively contain the situation. And it was his decision making which was making a lot of, like we can say, difference. What is the example of objectivity? An officer following rules, regulations, code of ethics, code of conduct. Neha, so you can just reflect upon what was discussed earlier. Don't mix it with this one, right? This is just a counter to the rule that at all times objectivity is not possible. When you are looking into the merits of the case, when you are looking into the, we can say, the uh, the facts of the case, it is then that you maintain objectivity. For example, you are an officer who are hiring other juniors, you are an officer who is awarding contract, वो सब example था ना नेहा? So you should have been attentive. There, all that was written also in the slide. Okay, keep a pen and paper intact. Every time you are feeling that you are missing it out, you will keep noting things down, and that is something which will keep you alert. Now, so Taj attack, when we are talking about it, you can see Sandeep Unnikrishnan, the smartness he had to save the, we can say, the people who were kept by the terrorists. So he realized that it is the media which is snitching, it is media which is leaking out a lot of information which ought not to be leaked, and that information is misused and abused by the international terrorist organization, who through satellite communication are in time passing the information to the terrorists that this is what the like we can say commandos are planning, and this is the action that is taking in this flank, this thing in this area, this thing, this is the suit they are wearing, this is what they are launching. So they could respond and retaliate accordingly. So it was only Sandeep Unnikrishnan who realized that, oh, this is the problem created by the media. So he just walked out of the premises, spoke to the media, gave them a wrong hint and wrong information, and then said that, why are you publicizing? It is working against us. Please don't publicize all this information. This is the next attack that we are launching. This is what we are going to do. And the media did not resort to it. The media personals, the journalists, they announced it beforehand. When they announced it, the terrorist got alert, they took the action, and then Sandeep Unnikrishnan could corner them, kill a lot of them, and save the like hostages who were kept. And that is how 90% of the hostages were saved. They were not killed by the terrorist, because they would have been used as pawns, and that would have created more complexity to the case if there were a lot of hostages held by the terrorist. They were the only means by which terrorists could have saved themselves, or by which terrorists could have created a nuisance when we are speaking of this given situation. Okay, so when we are further discussing about this given situation, we all can like reflect upon his role even later. He saved a lot of other juniors and officers because he took up the decision to face the scenario by himself. You can watch the movie Major. Thank God a movie was made, because earlier when I used to say Sandeep Unnikrishnan, many people could not connect. At least now you have a a piece of literature, or rather the cinema, which can tell you about the kind of sacrifice this boy had made. So when we are talking about it, but sometimes justice is also unfair because of misinformation or fake evidence. Payal, are we talking about a generalized situation or a rare situation? So if you are talking about a generalized situation, then I'll entertain it. If you are talking about in one specific case where fake evidence was not determined whether it was evidence or not, or misinformation or not, and then it did not work in the favor of the person, then it will make sense. So let us keep the biases aside, and let us focus on generalization. In general, what happens, right? So we let us separate common sense with logic. So here we are discussing logically what generally happens, what is generally conducted, right? So okay, so class 9 chapter 1, the real heroes, English literature. Oh wow, I was not aware that in ICSE board he has been incorporated in the chapter. Wow, that's amazing. I'm so happy. So ethics at foot level by telling a lie. What do I interpret by this, Prashant? I mean, am I supposed to explain it? Am I supposed to incorporate the statement? Because it's randomly I read the comment, so maybe I'm unable to connect. So my bad. Okay, now, so when we are talking about objectivity in complex situations, situations which are unprecedented, situations for which there are no laws, rules, or regulation, there is no set of code of ethics or code of conduct to follow. In that situation, an officer will have to use his or her his or her subjectivity. Like COVID, never ever post independence we had seen any pandemic or endemic outbreak, so we did not have a structure of how officers ought to behave. Similarly, we did not have a structure how officers ought to behave in a terrorist attack when it happens in a not in a border area, rather it happens in the one of the cosmopolitan areas, or in one of the regular cities per se. Okay, So with respect to this, when we are speaking of the given dimension, and when we are looking into the given concerns pertaining to it, we are like going to reflect upon the details and the dynamics associated with the same. Okay, so with respect to this, when we are reflecting upon the concerns, we all can see that in welfare functions, hence we can consider that hence in welfare functions, comma, leadership functions, leadership functions and unprecedented situations, situations you have not expected to happen. So in unprecedented situations, so situations you did not expect to happen, you did not calculate it to happen, and unprecedented situations. Okay, what will predict, so what will prevail? Subjectivity will prevail. So it is not possible to be objective. It is not possible to be objective. All right, so that's something which you are supposed to understand. So objectivity at all times cannot be observed. Objectivity or following the rules and regulations, in casual language also it is said that it is a clerical expectation. Who will follow rules and regulations? And where are there details of rules and regulation? So for lower bureaucracy, for the tier 2 staff, for like level C, level D, level E grade like staff, there are details of rules and regulation that you have to follow the command of the officer, you have to do this, you have to do that. So there are the do's and don'ts are given in greater detail for the lower staff. For the higher level of bureaucracy, for three situations, always remember: one, in situations pertaining to welfare functions; in situation pertaining to leadership functions where immediate decision has to be taken; and unprecedented situations, situations you did not expect to happen. In all these situations, it is the subjectivity of the leader, the subjectivity of the bureaucrat that prevails. Objectivity is not possible. All right, so ma'am, can we also replace discretionary power here with subjectivity? Yeah, there are certain discretionary powers that are given to civil servants due to subjectivity of the case. Because here the topic is not polity and discretionary power. So don't mix polity over here. Okay, here we are discussing with the technical jargons of ethics. So the jargon of ethics is objectivity. The values that we are discussing is objectivity. So the civil services value of objectivity can be connected with this given possibility, right? So we can just reflect that what is the objective scenario that we ought to be taking in consideration when we are deciding upon a case, and then you can further substantiate upon it accordingly. All right. Now, as we are further moving ahead, how is it ensured? So objectivity is sacrificed for better subjectivity. Well, um, objectivity is not sacrificed. When you say sacrifice, sacrifice is a positive word, right? So sacrificed as if we are killing it. No, we can say objectivity, sorry, fairness and justice is prioritized over objectivity. That's a better expression. All right, anyway, so how do we ensure objectivity? So I have already discussed that follow like rules, regulations, laws, okay, to eliminate or to reduce discretion on an average. And when discretionary decisions have to be taken, then you must take care of the facts and not personal beliefs. How to develop like objectivity? It is by improving transparency and information management system, means publishing everything on the online portal like e-governance, m-governance, so that people are informed why you decided to deal with some certain thing and how you decided it. So there is some kind of we can say objectivity put in place when people are informed about the reason behind a specific decision. Now, as we move ahead with the component of empathy and compassion. So, as I'm going to discuss this term empathy and compassion, I'll first give you a prelude related to this given concept in the form of, we can consider certain terms like apathy, sympathy,
or rather, yeah, sympathy, empathy, and compassion. All right. In between, probably I can very briefly discuss pity also. All right. Now, as I am going to discuss this given dimension, oh yes, thanks. Yes. So, as we are going to discuss about these given dimensions, especially related to apathy, sympathy, and empathy, there is a word, the root word pathos, incorporated in it. And pathos literally means pain. In apathy, there is a prefix a. And as you know, that prefixes and suffixes can alter the meaning, right? Sometimes. So, when sometimes we add a, in Hindi, when we add a, like ant becomes anant. Okay. And I think Tamil students can also understand, because you have heard of the Ananta Padmanabham temple, right? So Anant is not an unknown word. So when we understand, and I'm saying this specifically for Tamil students, because when once in a while I crack a joke, or once in a while when I hint it to some North Indian student creating a mess in the class, and yes, it is in Kerala, but at least they have heard it. Tamil Nadu is a neighbor to Kerala. So at least they have heard the word Anant. So no one can say, oh, she used Hindi. Because this is an exclusive situation with respect to Tamil Nadu students. No other state protest or why this term was used. But the thing is, uh, when you are scolding a child, a specific student, and the student is creating some kind of chaos or some kind of extra, like we can say, polishing is needed, then in that situation, I resort to Hindi. And then a Tamilian student, why did she like speak in Hindi? I mean, because the scolding was not meant for you, and for the one whom it was needed, that piece of advice or scolding, the child understood it. But the thing is that sometimes when they are unable to understand the language, they feel left out. So since yesterday I'm translating even those pieces of like things. So similarly, when we are using like a, like in Hindi we use a, or in Sanskrit we use a, so it alters the meaning. Ant, anant. In the similar manner, pathos, pathi means pain. If we add a, it creates just the opposite meaning, means insensitivity. Navjot, like Novojot rather. Novojot, as your name is appearing here. If you have patience, you will understand apathy, empathy, compassion. Let me speak. If I'll speak, you will understand, right? So, understanding a subject in a regional language. Yeah, I mean, like, but Priyanka, understanding in English is very easy, but when you're writing your mains answer, you'll think in English. Then half your energy will burn down in translating the content rather than analyzing and reflecting the content. So it may be a little tedious to start with thinking, listening, and working in English, but this is something which is going to fix your preparation for mains. Don't go by the easy way, because easy way is not preparing you for mains. I know that sensational videos across YouTube and various online platforms and channels, it is promoted through English. But English is the most damaging language for a student. For a student should never be exposed to English. It should be either Hindi or English. You should always be like, known to everyone. You should just understand this very possibility. Don't cull your possibility just because you want to go lazy with it. All right. Now, so, as I'm discussing about apathy, so apathy is when you are being cruel, when you are being indifferent. So, it is associated with indifference, it is associated with cruelty. Okay, cruelty. It is associated with exercising insensitivity. Okay, now let me just give you certain examples and all of you will be able to understand this. So, like, let us say there is this fellow who, traveled all the way from village, and he comes in the search of employment. He has got his little kid also, and he has got his, like, let us consider, wife also. And the wife, the kid, and the man, they have deboarded the bus and in the city, and they start looking for a job. So someone says that, why are you asking for job randomly? Here is a government office. Why don't you go and ask in the government office? So, like, let us say The fellow enters the government office, and in the government office building, like let us consider, the person meets different individuals on different window. So on window one, suppose this person reaches out to window one and then speaks to an officer that, sir, I needed a job, I've just come from the village, I've spent like my money on, we can say, I've spent the money on the bus ticket, and I need some job to survive, to feed my family, my child and my wife is also there. So to which, suppose this officer sitting on window one scolds him back. He's like, as if like jobs are lying on the plate and we are just ready to serve to all of you, we are like servants for you only. I mean, I don't know from where you get this foolishness, and you just come looking for the job, and this is like such a stupid way to like deal in life, that too you have dragged your wife and child also. So this person behaved with cruelty, with apathy. The person behaved with like insensitivity, did not care that what the person must have lived, might not have slept throughout the night, might not have eaten for the day. So this is associated with apathy when we are speaking of it. Suppose after some time he reaches out to window 2. Okay. So in window 2, when he is raising the same concern, okay, then in that situation, the person just tries to give a temporary fix. A temporary fix in the sense the fix is also not sufficient. Okay. We can consider it as a temporary fix which may not be sufficient, right? So the person is saying, oh sir, this is happening, I've not even eaten this, that. So the person is like, okay, you take 50 rupees and you better eat some samosa or something and get rid, we cannot offer any job. So it's like pity. Suppose someone is telling you, sir, I have not eaten anything since morning, please give me some money, give me some money. And you're just looking at the person like, maybe this person has not eaten anything, and you just take out 5 rupees and you give. That's pity. So in pity, you are making an intervention, but you are not making an intervention thoughtfully. You are not trying to make an intervention which can even fix the situation. Okay. So that is something which can be referred as pity. Then suppose the person reaches the third window, and after reaching the third window, this person is like sharing the same issue that, sir, this has happened, please help me out. Now this person is like, oh my god, getting a job in public office is so tough, jobs are not lying here, god knows who inspired you to like come to the government office. Okay, your situation is also tough, and you have traveled throughout the night, and then your child and wife, everyone is there. Okay, so you do something, you better you better take, like let's say this person gives 500 rupees, that you better take the 500 rupees, eat something, I mean feed your child, your wife, all that. It will cost you 100 rupees to eat something decent enough, and after that buy the bus tickets, that will barely cost you 300 rupees, and go back to village. There is nothing there in the city to offer you immediately, and you will just waste your days, and your child and your wife may go hungry, and that can also impact the health and well-being of them. So it's better that you return. So in sympathy, you are making an intervention. Okay, so there is intervention, but no thought for long-term solution. Long-term solution. You do not bother what will happen to the person if the person goes back to the village. The person left the village because there was no opportunity over there. So if the person goes back, the problem will continue. Or can I make some extra intervention for this person, like seek out if the person can be helped out? You just gave 500 rupees and you even forget about the situation. You don't bother to follow up or catch up with the situation, what happened or what did not happen per se. Okay, so that is associated with the interventionist approach, when there is no thought for long term solution per se. All right, I hope you are understanding this bit. Then we can also connect it with the fourth possibility. Suppose this person reaches out to the fourth window, and the person again narrates the same scenario, and then in that given situation, let's say the officer in the fourth window just takes a sneak peek and can see the child and the wife, and the person is reminded of his childhood, that, oh, when I was a child,
I also had come with my father, and my father was holding my hand, and he was so shaky, so crumbly. We had lost our crop. And when he reached the officer had said that, see, there is no job in the government office, but I have a servant's quarter. You can stay there. I have some little patch of land given in the officer's quarter, so you can work as a gardener over there. And your wife can do some cooking and cleaning in my home and help my wife. And meanwhile, because you'll be left with some time, you can do gardening in the nearby flats or houses for your survivability and sustainability. And then the same officer helped the child to get admission. Means this officer, when he was a child, to get admission in a government school, the child was bright, so he motivated that why don't you prepare for the competitive exams, and that is how he became an officer. So seeing this person and his condition, listening to his narrative, as he is peeping from the window, he's seeing the child and the wife, and he's reminded of his childhood. So this is empathy. What is empathy? When you put yourself in another person's shoes, another person's situation, another person's situation, or in another person's shoes, when we are speaking of it, when we are talking about empathy. So empathy is when you are placing yourself in another person's situation per se. Okay. So when we are speaking of this given dimension, when we are talking about this given possibility, okay, we all can connect with the component of empathy whereby you are becoming emotional. So here in apathy there was indifference, there was cruelty. In sympathy you are, like, in symmetry with that person's pain in the moment. And in the moment when you are in symmetry with that person's pain, you are making an intervention. Like the person gave 500 rupees, so you are making an intervention in the moment. Okay. But you do not care what happens later. You do not have a long term vision or a long term intervention or botheration. So sympathy is more like an immediate intervention, right? But in empathy, when you are putting yourself in another person's situation and making an intervention, so in that situation, like let us say this person is like, okay, government job is not there, but let me call my friends who might be needing a service staff. Okay. So suppose the person called up one of his friends who is a factory owner or something like that and asking, do you need some staff, semi-skilled or unskilled or whatsoever? And then we can train this guy accordingly. Or the person called up other friends who might need someone for some kind of help. Okay. So you are making an intervention or a long-term solution by getting affected by the person's situation, by imagining yourself or putting yourself in the person's situation. That's what you are doing in the condition of empathy. Okay. So the intervention is more meaningful, more sound. But what is the, like what is the aspect associated with apathy, sympathy, and empathy? There is continual segment of pathos. There is dukh. So in apathy, there is no dukh, there is no sadness, there is no, like we can say, sense of emotion. But in sympathy, there is emotion. You immediately feel the emotion and you want to make the intervention. Okay. You miswritten the points. Where have I miswritten the points, Labdhi? First thing is, do we use the term miswritten? Is it even a grammatically correct term? Okay, all right, fine. So with respect to mistaken, ma'am, okay, so it was like a mistaken issue from your side because I have not written the word mistaken. So I think that you probably misinterpreted the concept, right? So, all right. Now, with respect to this, when we are talking about the segment of sympathy, in sympathy, when we are speaking of this given dimension, we all can connect that sympathy is like associated with you getting affected, but only making a temporary, momentary intervention. But still, you're getting affected, you're getting emotional, you're getting saddened. Okay, because there is pain. So you're getting saddened by the situation. Oh, poor guy, how much struggle and suffer he is experiencing. In empathy, you are experiencing the sadness, you're experiencing the pain, you're experiencing the pathos, and then making an intervention. Now, My question is it essential to undergo the pain, undergo the sadness to make an intervention? Can you not be affected by a person, affected to make a difference in people's lives without necessarily undergoing the process of sadness? Right? So you can make an intervention without undergoing the sadness, and that is what is compassion. Compassion is when you're competently connected to the person's pain, or you're competently affected by what the person is undergoing. You're understanding facts of the case, and you're passionate to solve the pathos, you're passionate to solve the crisis. That's compassion. Okay, so for making a proper action, for taking a meaningful action, it's not necessary that you have to always cry. Otherwise, every second day there will be so many people coming with so many complaints and issues of their life. If every that time you're crying, oh, ye bahut dikh mein hai, oh my god, this person is like really struggling, oh my god, this person is really suffering, so how many times will you cry to make a difference? It's not necessary. Or every time you're becoming depressed, every time you're becoming saddened, you can make an intervention. You can definitely make an intervention by your commitment to make intervention, by your commitment to create welfare, without necessarily going sad every time. That's the difference between empathy and compassion. Okay, the hairline difference, which is many a times not understood or not well explained in many places. And that's why in many places you will see it's written empathy and compassion. Both are written together, because empathy is like stage one of getting affected and making an intervention. Compassion is when you become benevolent. You love everyone from all classes, all communities, all segments of the society. You're concerned for everyone, attached to everyone. It's not that necessary that when you only get saddened for that community you're making a difference. If any community deserves an intervention, you shall make it. That's compassion. Okay, so that's why you see the word empathy always comes with some other word simultaneously in the area of governance. It will be like empathy and love. Okay, it will be like empathy and compassion. That's the reason. Okay, so when we are speaking of this given segment pertaining to the fifth window, compassion, you listen to the person's issues attentively. You yourself are not getting sad, but you listen to the person attentively, and you become committed that yes, I will make a difference. Let me see what is the labor bureau doing. Let me see what are other NGOs doing. Let me see what are the bodies which are looking into the migrant laborers and their condition, shelter homes and other kind of areas, and you are connecting the individual with them. Okay, so that's how you exercise with respect to compassion. Okay, so here when we are speaking of this given dimension, you can also understand it with this given diagram which is given over here. So apathy, I don't care if you are suffering, this emoticon you can see. Sympathy, I feel sad to know you are suffering. But it's not necessary by feeling sad you will actually make a long term meaningful intervention. It can be some immediate intervention, or you're just feeling sad, you felt for it and you left. Okay, so sympathy is like you're just feeling sad. It is more like at emotional level, may not be at action level, or even if it is at action level, it may not be at long term level. In empathy, you can see there is a tear in this fellow's eyes, right? So you can see this tear, and with this given tear you can see that I'm here and I understand your suffering. You're understanding the crisis. You are putting yourself in the in yourself in the person's shoes. Yes, Ashmi, that is how you actually develop a sense of clarity related to these terms, which you have been listening since your childhood. But you never bothered to understand, or it was never exposed to you. It was never, the meaning never arrived to you. The difference between these basic simple terms, which you have been hearing from your childhood, when you study ethics, you understand that they are not regular words, they have their own technical specific meaning. And that's how ethics fixes you with respect to understanding and having a better worldview. All right. Akanksha, are you there? Just cross checking regarding your presence. Okay. So, with respect to this, great. Are you connecting? Are you now understanding bit by bit? So, with respect to this, when we are, so empathetic person is like more emotional, not deeper. The empathetic person is more emotional, Vivek. Okay. So with respect to this, again, we can see this given dimension.
about, like, let us say, compassion. And when we are able to see the segment of compassion, the person has kindness in the eyes. You can see that, right? There is so much of kindness in the eyes, but no tear per se. There is kindness in the eyes. And you can see, I will help you and end all your suffering. So there is commitment to act. This is what you can see. Commitment to act and make a difference. Make a difference. That's why I said that the sessions are more like a stepping stone. They simplify the basic concepts, they enroll you into the subject. Then comes the detailed reading. I will share, like today only, I'll just remind it to Amarjeet, I'll share some additional reading material related to foundational values for civil services. Start reading that also. That will be relatively easier. Okay. And then switch to like Subbarao book for this chapter. You will understand everything. Bit by bit, things will dawn upon you. Just be kind to yourself. All of you, exercise kindness to yourself. That there is this discipline I have never ever studied academically in my life. For past 5 or 7 years, I have been dissociated from humanities subject. My connection with humanities subject was to history and civics and all that, that to school level standard 8th. And suddenly I'm exposed to a very higher level of humanities discipline. So it will take some time to understand. So be kind to yourself, be patient with yourself, and work more systematically, more diligently, more meticulously by making notes. Then things will slowly and steadily start getting explained to all of you. Okay. So that is how you're supposed to understand this. Not everybody is able to help financially or socially. Yes, Sarashti, but we are talking about civil servants, no? And these values are discussed from the perspective of civil servant. So why to think like a common person? Start thinking like a bureaucrat. So, but from the where foundation of ethics we'll get in the book. There is the place where you get all the chapters, and in the chapters you will find foundational values for civil services. I mean, like, why so lost when you have the content? So, is compassion better form of all? Yes, compassion is the most benevolent form of exercising love and care for the larger society when we are talking about it. Okay. Now, so with respect to this, when we are connecting compassion with civil services, okay, so we all can reflect upon the delimitation with respect to this given dimension. Okay. So, like with respect to this, bureaucrat means civil servant. For civil servant, there is another word called bureaucrat, Vijay. Okay. So, with respect to this, as we are further moving ahead, we all can understand that bureaucrats are connected with these terms, like bureaucrats have a helicopter approach. Okay. So, we can consider bureaucrats having helicopter approach. What is helicopter approach? I made a helicopter, so literally, so that you can visualize. So, helicopter approach. Do you see sometimes ministers go to do survey of floods? So they don't go between the people, the sufferers who are hanging on their, like we can say, roofs, or they don't, like, go between the people. What if the people start hitting? Oh, this happened because of you. The dam broke because of you. You were not taking care of the environmental issue. So what do? They have a distant approach. So helicopter approach is meant for the word distant approach. It is also said that bureaucrats are stuck in the distancing trap. Distancing trap. Because they treat themselves as elite. We are larger than life. We are better than the rest. So sometimes they're like, okay, from distance, I'll just see things, I'll observe things, and then I'll go. So that is called helicopter approach. You survey things, and after surveying, you just leave. So you are not getting into the details of the concern and what kind of qualitative intervention will bring about the meaningful difference. That is something when we are talking about it. Okay. So now we cannot say pre-Weber, because Sahil, we can still see this problem prevailing in Indian society, prevailing in Indian bureaucracy. Subjectivity will get its motivation from compassion. Don't mix it here, Chintan, because whatever you have to understand, you will not even understand that. So don't mix it right now. That's not required as of now. So
when we are talking about with respect to this, when we are talking about it, so bureaucrats are suffering from the distancing trap. There was this term used by CK Bhamri, CP Bhamri sir. CP Bhamri sir was the HOD of Political Science Department, Delhi University. So he had said that the IS is the new Brahminical system of India. Why the Brahminical system? So, like the way in ancient times, Brahmins maintained distance from the Dalits, considering themselves higher than the rest. And like if you go and study like Andre Betia thinker who is talking about Tamil Nadu, Sripuram village, he said that the Brahmins used to tie their veshti, means all the caste groups, they used to tie their dhoti differently. So they used to tie their veshti in such a manner or dhoti in such a manner that from 32 steps away, you could identify who is walking down. So you could identify the caste groups from distance. And accordingly, the caste groups could determine, oh, Brahmin is coming, so let me change my route so that my shadow also does not fall on him. So that is the Brahminical system, which was maintaining its distance. CP Bhamri sir said that IS is the new Brahminical system of India, which considers itself elite, above all, better than the rest, and touch me not, distancing itself as per the possibility. Here is another image which I have created, that is for armchair bureaucracy. Armchair bureaucracy means everything is understood in theory. Okay, when it comes to making a difference on ground, that is something which is not followed. So armchair bureaucracy is like whereby bureaucrats are only following things on paper, on theory, everything is hunky-dory on paper. You are like passing the files, but you're not bothered about the kind of impact that it can create on ground, on the base. All right. So how does it make a difference from which college I did my graduation, Vishal? It was LSR, okay, Lady Shram College for Women. Anyway, so getting back to this given dimension pertaining to the component of armchair bureaucracy, when we are talking about it, this was also very well explained in this movie called Toilet Ek Prem Katha. In Toilet Ek Prem Katha, it was shown that the bureaucrats were not passing the paper, the file related to construction of toilet in one of the vulnerable areas. So what the senior most official did was he told the peon that you please lock the toilet and open the toilet only for that official who signs the file and proceeds the file further ahead. So every time a bureaucrat had to go to the washroom and was under the pressure, they said, the peon said that sir has said, run through the file, sign it today itself, and then this the toilet shall be opened. So when they empathetically underwent the same crisis, that there is no toilet available and where to go to defecate or where to go to urinate. So in that situation, when they underwent the challenge themselves, they immediately started signing the file. And in the movie, within a day, the file gets passed from that office and moves to another office. Within a week, the work related to construction of toilet starts. So when we speak of this possibility of empathy, empathy speeds up the work. Compassion creates a sense of commitment towards the larger goals to help the people out. All right. So I hope all of you are able to connect with the basics associated with this given term when we are discussing about it. So with respect to this, I hope all of you are able to connect the given keywords and you are able to understand the keywords, right? You can see this empathy and compassion is something which makes great officers. There was this guy, Armstrong Pame from Manipur, and he studied in so much of hardship. I still remember in 2009 when he was a student studying in Bearsarai area, he had two sisters who were working as sales girls in two shops, and the as sales girl they were barely able to get some amount. So the elder sister, she actually was like a motherly figure for Armstrong, and she was the girl who, he said that in the last few days of the month, she used to say that I ate my dinner in the shop because they offered me something to eat. And I never questioned that how come entire month they are not giving you snacks and they are giving you food to eat towards the end of the month. He said my sister made that supreme sacrifice for the simple reason that she wanted rice to be left so that I eat it, I get the energy to study. If I don't have food in my stomach, I won't be able to study. And she also sold her earrings to pay my fees for the coaching. So, like, this boy, he studied from so much of hardship. And when he was posted as an IS officer in Manipur, then he realized that there are different villages and their development is hindered because there is lack of streets. When there is lack of road, the government schemes will not reach, midday meal will not reach, pension scheme will not reach, various other interventions will not reach to the remote areas. So he realized that road has a strategic importance and it has to be constructed, but no government fund had come. And you will be surprised to know that this guy, he constructed a 100-kilometer road with people's support and people funding. He donated a part of his salary for the construction of the road. The tribal council also contributed some amount. People who were well off in that area, they also contributed from their pocket. And the poorer sections, they did shramdan. Shramdan means with their labor they constructed the road. So everyone was constructing the road with their effort. And imagine, not 1 or 2 kilometers, 100 kilometers road was constructed without a single penny coming from the government. Okay, this comes with what? This comes with compassion. When you're compassionate enough for the people and you're committed to serve the people, you're dedicated to bring about the difference. All right, I hope all of you are able to understand this. So, with respect to this, as we are further substantiating this given dimension, we all can also connect this given segment with Mahatma Gandhi. So, when we are connecting this idea with Gandhian approach, so Gandhian approach, when Gandhi arrived from Africa, okay, when he came to India, in India, first he went for an all India tour. Okay, an all India tour. So he resorted to the train and other means of transport, other means. So when he started taking his train journey, okay, as he was crossing the Ganges, from the train he saw that there was a woman who was trying to take a bath. She was trying to clean her dhoti while wearing it. And it was winters. So Pyare Lal, his like personal secretary, he said that, sir, just look at the level of intensity of poverty, that this woman does not have an alternate dhoti to tie. So she will clean this dhoti while wearing it, and then she will take it, like, she'll just walk in the same wet dhoti till the time it dries on her body. So this is the intensity of poverty that we are living in this country. To which, like, Gandhi, that is the moment which was which impacted his heart so much. He was so full of compassion for the people in India that he realized that consumerism, and rather over consumerism, is a sin in a country where people are suffering with destitution, where people are unable to make their basic needs met. So what Gandhi did was that he renounced, like, wearing Western clothes. He said that in wearing a vest coat, a shirt, then a vest coat, then wearing a coat, then a trouser, all this needs a lot of fabric, a lot of clothes. So that is how he started, like, using the charkha, spinning his own cotton, after spinning it, weaving it, and making a dhoti, and then wearing a dhoti. Even when he went for the conference in London representing India, he was called the naked fakir. He was called the naked fakir because in the, like, the cold biting winter of London, he was just wrapping a like thick blanket on his body, and he was wearing the same knee length dhoti. Okay, so that's why he was referred as naked fakir, because he was like, I represent the country and my people are living in this condition. This is what max they can afford. So I will just undergo the same pain so that I'm continuously reminded of the conditions in which they live, and the sacrifices that have to continually be made for the, like, well-being of the people, for saving them out of misery, pathos, and, like, various forms of unfreedoms they are suffering from. Okay, so that is something which all of you can understand, right? So again, when we are speaking of this given dimension, so he could make a difference because of what? Because of compassion. Even his bhajan, I hope you understand, bhajan is a devotional song.
So in his bhajan, which is a devotional song, he sang this, which was a Narsi Mehta's famous devotional song. That is, all of you must be aware of it. Vaishnava Janto Tene Kahiye Je. So this Vaishnava Janato Tene Kahiye Je Peed Parai Jane Re. So that it literally means, it's like in Gujarati, it literally means that when you are understanding the pain of others, it is then that you become a real spiritual person, a devout of God. When you are able to understand the pain, the pathos of others. So that is something which all of you can connect with. This devotional song is also motivated by compassion. Okay. Similarly, another example with respect to this I can give you is coming from Mahabharata. As I said, that Mahabharata is a text of ethical dilemmas and resolving the ethical dilemmas. What is the, like, it is a book of moral inquiry, that what is morally correct to do. So there is the Yaksha Yudhishthir conversation. Pay attention to the content that I will write and reflect deep over the content, that what is the conversation that is made. Okay, no other extra garbage miscellaneous thoughts should be entertained. Just see the depth of reflection and depth of content which is discussed between these two mythological figures. Okay, so Yaksh and Yudhishthira conversation, because mythology like nurtures our thought process. It is a piece of literature which nurtures how we ought to think and, like, respond to a situation. So what happened was that Yudhishthira was like sent for exile. And in the exile, when he was passing by a forest, he was very thirsty. He could not find water anywhere, so he sent his younger brothers Nakul and Sahdev. As they ventured out in the forest, they saw a very clean, very neat, very beautiful lake, which was having crystal clear water. So as they bent down to drink water, a yaksh or a spirit appeared, and it said that you have to respond to my question, else you will, the moment you drink the water without responding, you will faint. So what happened was that the boys did not hear, and they drank the water, they fainted. Then what happened was that, I'm just giving the background is not necessary for the exam. What is necessary is what I'll write on the board. Remember only that part. Okay, so the background is for those who don't know the background. Then what happens, that Bhim comes. Bhim also does not, he becomes haughty, he does not pay attention to what Yaksha is saying, he also faints. Then Arjun comes, he also faints. So when Yudhishthira comes all alone, and he is surprised to see his brothers fainted, but he thinks, let me first drink water and then bring back to them to life. So what happened was that the Yaksh appeared and said the same thing, and said, all are in deep coma, they will die if you do not respond. Okay, so you will also slip into coma, and all of you will die over the time period. To which Yudhishthira held his thirst somehow, and he said, okay, I will entertain your questions. So in school books, generally 5 questions are given. In many textbooks at school level, academic level, that's how few of you are able to connect with the conversation. So 5 questions are given. But if you consult the internet, the entire conversation is given, and there are around 150 odd questions. You don't need to memorize 150 questions. Maybe 4 or 5 questions will leave you thinking deep, that, oh wow, such a tricky question, that what is the absolute form of truth, what is real love, what is the best expression of love, like all those, the real life questions pertaining to our existence, they are raised and they are responded. Anyway, so when the Yaksha asked, what is the greatest dharma, what is the greatest dharma, what is dharma? Moral code of conduct. All of you remember that, right? So, what is the greatest dharma? This question was asked. To this question, Yudhishthira responded that compassion is the greatest dharma. So, here it gets connected to compassion. So, compassion is the greatest dharma. After that, he further spoke that only when you have compassion in your heart, only when you have compassion in your heart, comma, moral sentiment shall grow. Moral sentiment shall grow. See the word moral sentiment shall grow. What is moral sentiment? You are not getting emotional uselessly. I mean, when you are getting emotional uselessly, you waste your emotions, you waste your interventions. Okay. When you are morally emotional, when you have a sense of right and wrong, and then when you are emotional, okay, it is then that the act becomes compassionate. Let me explain it more clearly because I know what I spoke was too intense. So this is associated with another, this moral sentiment, this is associated with another concept which is associated with misplaced compassion. Misplaced compassion. So misplaced compassion, what is misplaced compassion? When you do not exercise your compassion morally, you just do it for the sake of it. Like here you can see the example. This is from Maharashtra. There was this news which I just picked from there. So it was like, the beggars were also alcoholics and drug addicts. Okay, drug addicts. So suppose you, out of compassion, you are doing charity. Okay, so you are doing charity. So when you are doing charity and you are not evaluating where is the money going, okay, you are not evaluating whether the person is the real needy or not, then only the money gets abused or misused. Okay, so charity without understanding. Okay, when we are reflecting upon it, so charity without understanding. Just a second. So when we are talking about misplaced compassion is associated with making any form of, we can say, or exercising any form of compassion without, we can consider, having an understanding of what intervention should be made, should be made, and towards whom, and towards whom. Then what happens? It gets misused. Okay, so the charity gets misused. So that's why it is said, like, that the supatra and kupatra should be taken care of. Supatra means the person who deserves to get the charity. If you are keeping that in mind, then only the charity makes an intervention when we are talking about it. Okay, so that is misplaced compassion. Misplaced compassion, another example is associated with, like, let us say, a mother not a child scolding a child when he or she is wrong. When he or she is wrong. Okay, so when a mother is not scolding or not correcting the child when he or she is wrong, out of being emotional, that, oh, my poor child will be hurt if I scold, he or she will become sad if I scold. Okay, so I don't want to make my child sad. So in that situation, when he or she is wrong, out of being emotional. Okay, so when you are too emotional and you are unable to fix the situation, that's also misplaced compassion. I hope you're understanding misplaced compassion, all of you, right? So, who is happy? A person who isn't under the debt and eats 2 meals in their own house and sleeps. Yes, that is also yet another answer which was given by Yudhishthira when it was asked who is the real happy person. Okay. Now, so that's not our mothers. Many of our mothers are quite strict, I must say, including mine. Anyway, so when you are understanding this concept of misplaced compassion, you can understand the answer given by Yudhishthira, that compassion is the greatest dharma. Only when you have compassion in your heart, moral sentiment shall grow. This is such an in-depth reflection, no, about the concept of compassion, that when you have the moral sentiment in your heart, okay, when you have compassion in your heart, when you really care for all, and then you are able to see who is the real needy, who needs the time bound intervention, what ought to be done immediately, and what long term intervention is needed. It is then that morally, with a sense of right and wrong,
you are emotional and you are able to enact upon the emotion accordingly. All right, I hope you are understanding this. Okay. Okay, all right. With respect to this, we can also see there's one more sentence which is in continuation with it, that is compassion. Compassion is in the roots of the tree called dharma. Is in the roots of the tree called dharma. Okay. So compassion is in the roots of the tree called dharma. All right. I hope all of you are able to like connect to this given concept. So compassion is in the roots of the tree called dharma. All right. Basic nutrients of dharma. Yes. For being morally upright, you need to be compassionate. For being morally connected to the society, having a sense of what is the right thing to do, what is the wrong thing to do, you need to have compassion in your heart. That is something which will guide you to the right act and the wrong act. And to this, probably I can connect this idea with Gandhi's talisman. Are you aware of Gandhi's talisman, people? Are you aware of Gandhi's talisman? Have you read it in NCERT book towards the beginning? Yeah. So a few people have not read it. Okay. So Gandhi has said it in the NCERT book towards the beginning. You can read it. He says that if you really want to make an intervention in people's lives, okay, and you are feeling that what is the right thing to do, suppose you are stuck in a situation, in an ethical dilemma, you are stuck and you are feeling what is the right thing to do, okay, then you just remember the face of the poorest person you have ever seen in your life and ask yourself that if, what action should I do right now which will directly or indirectly impact that person or people like him, as poor as him. Will my act help this person, like sooner or later, directly or indirectly? If yes, then you should do that thing. If no, then that act is not necessary. So what is it motivated by? It is motivated by the sentiment of compassion, right? I hope all of you are able to understand this. Yes. Okay. So with respect to this, we further move ahead to another, we can say, civil services value. But prior to that, how can we inculcate compassion in the people? So there are certain steps which have been discussed here. Sensitivity training. Like, for example, sensitivity training is done for policemen, it is done for services oriented people at different level. We can connect with that. Rawls wheel of ignorance. Yes, Rawls wheel of ignorance can also be connected. Parul, good. I appreciate that you can think like that. The poorest guy seen in life is me. What is that? Okay. All right, Sai, I got the joke. So I want to, okay. I don't know, Pradeep. I am not like connected to this technical aspect which you're asking. Again, so other than sensitivity training, we can also connect it with open conversation. By having open conversation, heart to heart conversation, also, we can understand who is experiencing what. There is another concept coming from ancient Indian philosophy, that is Sarva Dharma Sambhava. When you consider all the moral philosophies, people belonging to all other different thoughts, ideals, and philosophies, okay, as the same. So that is called Sarva Dharma Sambhava. Okay. So we all can connect with this given idea with respect to it. Again, we can also connect it with art and literature. Okay. So when you have to inculcate sensitivity through cinema, there are many times no we see cinema, like for example, the German Reich, the soldiers, and we can say the army people who are a part of the German Reich, once Germany was freed from Hitler, and many of the officers were arrested and few officers were like who were not arrested, but the soldiers, the other people who are following the orders, when they were kept, okay, to, we can consider when they were kept in like the process of giving them a flavor and idea about what they had committed, they were made to watch documentaries, they were made to watch different types of, we can say, movies, cinemas based on real life, and also the real life interviews of people who had suffered at the hands of, we can say, the German soldiers and the German army. So when these officers, they watched it, it dawned upon them the gravitas of the crime they had committed, the intensity of the crime they had committed, and the loss of human life, and, we can say, exploitation of human values that had taken place. So that is something which all of us can connect with respect to the dimension of art and literature. Okay, so with respect to art and literature, we can connect this given possibility that it also sensitizes people. Okay, it also sensitizes people about other people's condition, like other situations, right? So we can also connect it with, like, we can consider there was this movies Chandigarh Kare Ashiki. Such a movie could not have been made something like, maybe I would say, a decade back. But today, if Indian audience are ready to watch a movie like Chandigarh Kare Ashiki, which speaks about trans women, and the producer can think of making commercial cinema on the issue of trans, what is trans, discussing about it biologically. I remember there is a dialogue of the doctor which is of almost 10 minutes. It's more like a biology class, whereby she shows diagrams and explains what is a trans woman and what is the idea of trans woman, etc. So, that is something which was quite enervating, that such movies could not have been thought to be made in commercial cinema, which can monetize, which can benefit, which can profit, uh, 10 years back. But today, such cinema can be produced. Such cinema can be put before the forefront to the people, because now the possibility of debate, of discussion is more open. And in that space, cinema also tries to sensitize people about various issues. Again, we can connect it with cultivation of interest in other cultures. So when you are traveling, or when you are reading books pertaining to other cultures, when you are getting exposed about other cultures, it is that way also that you get to know, you get to learn, you get to understand about the different other cultures, and the kind of intervention that can be created, that can be understood from the perspective of what other cultures are experiencing, and what more interventions ought to be created with respect to them. All right, so that's something which, again, you all can connect with. Again, you can connect it with this component of compassion. So, like, when you know different cultures, you don't have biased opinion, you don't have prejudiced opinion, you don't have, like, we can say, misbehavior exercised, any, like, poor demeanor exercised to the people, right? So with respect to compassion, there is some extra content which I have also discussed, that why is it needed. So it is needed to, like, reduce disconnect in the society, disconnect between people and civil servants. It is to, like, create a sense of connectivity between the civil servant and the vulnerable sections. It is also, we can consider that without, like, compassion, we are not tempted to help the people out of their miseries, of their current situation. So it is compassion which motivates us to do charity, to stand for others, to take stand for them, to help them out, and to be assertive about empowering them. So how to develop it? I've already said sensitivity training. There can be also religious teaching, like Buddha's Four Noble Truth. And you can think of other religions also, which are talking about charity. Like, the concept of charity is there in Islam, it is there in Hinduism, it is there in Christianity, that on different occasions, how you should help the poor, how you should do charity, you should donate to the poor, right? So you can connect it with multiple examples coming from different religious communities. Okay, and how to develop it, there is the insight pertaining to it as well, that all of you can connect with when we are talking about it. Again, when we are discussing about it, you can see there is this yet another question pertaining to the next sub segment. Apart from intellectual competency, you can see this, moral qualities. Okay, so intellectual competency and moral qualities is also required, but along with that, what is needed? Empathy and compassion are some other vital attributes that facilitate the civil servants to be more competent in tackling crucial issues or taking critical decisions. Explain with suitable illustration. So you have to give example of, like, critical situations. It can be a flood, it can be, like, loss of crop, failure of crop, some environmental damage, it can be associated with COVID. You can take up different examples and you can discuss how compassion has helped civil servants to serve better. You can quote Armstrong Pame and he being able to construct a 100-kilometer road. Okay, you can like recall the content which we have discussed associated with empathy and compassion, why it is needed, how it brings the moral sentiment in decision making. Okay, so recall the methods of instilling it and why it is needed, why compassion is needed for services, how it brings, like, acceptance to diversity, how it brings how it addresses social justice, brings down the challenges of the people. All right. Yes. No, you don't have to bring out fictitious example, because suitable illustration is associated with a civil servant. So the examples should be associated with you being a civil servant or people being civil servants and exercising compassion while being in office. Okay. So that is how you can do ahead with it. You can also, like, rather than taking the name of Armstrong Pame, you can write that a DM from Manipur was able to construct a 100-kilometer road motivated by compassion, by understanding the importance of road for poor villagers with respect to schemes and policies reaching out to them, along with their products getting connected to the market and improvement in their economic status. Okay, so it's not necessary you remember names of present and serving officers. You can remember their position, their designation, and remember the region. That will be a more formal way to address the issue. All right. So, yeah, it's fine to see, Sushmit, there is no harm in writing names, but why is it considered not to take names? Anonymity. So if you're glorifying names, in future you will have a tendency to, like, follow those individuals, because in the end of the day you may, after going into the system, you may be working under them. So hero worship will take up the component of anonymity. Hero worshipping is something which is not glorified in the system. That's why I'm saying that even if you don't take names, but you talk about the designation and the work done, that will take care of it. All right. Okay, so I will give you the, like, this notes related to foundational values for civil services that shall be uploaded for all of you. And this is it for today. Let us catch up tomorrow with a new subcomponent associated with civil services value. The next subcomponent associated with it, that is tolerance. So you can see the question of tolerance and you can read the material that shall be shared by me. So this is it for today. Good night, all of you. Take care.